Chapter 941. The Savior 3. I thought someone had already spotted him, Freak said with a wicked grin. But no one seems to have informed that Alliance Master. Lung Ruoxua said indifferently. Hee. Then you can only blame the ape for being unpopular. The Freak laughed happily. So far, that ape was still lying on the street. Anyone who passed by and found him injured, not to mention that no one planned to save him, no one even went to the First League to inform them. He did not believe that no one recognized the ape. From this, it could be seen how unpopular the monkey was. The First Alliance didn't notice that their Alliance Master's precious son didn't return overnight? Lung Ruoxua said in disbelief. This matter was really too bizarre. Hee. I guess that ape often stays out late at night. The people of the First Alliance are already used to it, so naturally, no one wants to look for him. The Freak thought for a moment and guessed. He really got what he deserved. Lung Ruoxua gloated. When she heard this from Qingju, she almost laughed out loud. Swear, let's not worry about what will happen to that ape. Let's worry about ourselves while no one is around. The Freak said expectantly. Worried about ourselves? All right. Lung Ruoxua nodded. Swear, then let me. Before the Freak could finish, he saw that the scenery they were in had changed. Why were they back in the room? He looked at Swear bitterly. Fengde and the others are back. Lung Ruoxua smiled evilly. Swear, you did it on purpose, the Freak said unhappily, tears rolling in his eyes. Unfortunately, Lung Ruoxua ignored his pitiful appearance. Freak, don't accuse me. Lung Ruoxua also looked at the Freak aggrievedly, and even imitated him to act pitiful. Snow, Freak began, but was interrupted by a knock on the door. Go and open the door. Lung Ruoxua chuckled. Fengde and the others were really back. She didn't lie to the Freak. Yes. The Freak nodded. Then he reluctantly went to open the door. When he saw Fengde and the others standing outside, he did not give them a good look, making Fengde and the others feel puzzled. Mississippi. After Fengde and the others entered the room, they greeted Lung Ruoxua. Then, they secretly glanced at Commander Yi, whose expression was very ugly. Their hearts were in a mess. Some people even thought to themselves, I didn't provoke Commander Yi. What's wrong with him? Yes, did you find anything? Lung Ruoxua asked. Even though she had asked Qingju to monitor the movements in the city, there were still some things that she had to find out personally. Miss, the Ascender Alliance is very cautious. We asked many people indirectly, but they didn't dare to tell us too much. Some even suspected that we were sent by the natives, Vonda explained helplessly. That's normal. After all, we're outsiders and want to ask them about the Alliance. It's normal for them to suspect something. In the future, be careful when you go out. Don't attract the attention of the people in the First Alliance. Lung Ruoxua thought for a moment and reminded them. Fengde and the others were divided into 6 teams and went in different directions. However, so far, only Fengde's team had returned. Moreover, they did not seem to have made any major discoveries. He wondered if the other teams would gain anything. Lung Ruoxua thought to herself. Not long after, the others returned to the guest room. Miss, we didn't find anything. We were almost arrested, Lin Yuan said gloomily. So are we, my lady, Chengwu said looking crestfallen. The people of the city were too wary of them to speak to them. Neither did we, Songdi agreed. Neither did I. But when I passed a street, I saw a bunch of beat-up guys still lying on the ground. You did it, didn't you? Empty chuckled. He's still lying on the ground? Fengde said in surprise. It had been a night, but no one from the First League had brought them back. It was really abnormal. Yes. They're all unconscious. Besides, everyone who saw them chose to take a detour. Empty said with some amusement. This was probably the funniest thing that had happened to him since he arrived. The people from this alliance are really amazing. Fengde was in disbelief. This was the first time he had heard of such a thing in his life. I think they're afraid of getting into trouble, so it's better to mind their own business in the God realm. Otherwise they'll easily get into trouble. Lung Qinya said understandingly. Sometimes, even if we don't take the initiative to cause trouble, trouble will come to us. So it's useless to be afraid. The best way is to solve the trouble, Lung Ruoxue said calmly. Yes, yes. Fengde and the others agreed with Lung Ruoxue. Even though they hated trouble, they were not afraid of it. Otherwise he would not have dared to beat up the ape. Schwer, why aren't you surprised at all? Empty asked curiously when he saw Lung Ruoxue's calm reaction after hearing his words. I got it. Lung Ruoxue chuckled. Ah. Miss, why didn't you tell us when you found out? Let us be happy to. Fengde complained. I didn't know for long. I didn't have time to tell you guys. Lung Ruoxue said innocently. Miss, when do you think the First Alliance will realize that something has happened to the ape? Fengde asked curiously. I don't know. That depends on the ape's usual performance. If he's not at home often, I don't think anyone will look for him, Lung Ruoxue teased with a smile. At least 3 days, Lung Qianye said with certainty. Hehe. Won't the ape be in trouble? Fengde said happily. It has nothing to do with us if he's not unlucky. The most important thing now is to find the whereabouts of our cheap ancestor, Lung Ruoxue said gloomily. She didn't like this place, so she only wanted to see her cheap sake old ancestor, so that she could leave quickly. Chapter 942. The Savior 4. Little Schwer, Grandpa won't tell me if I contact him. Why don't you try asking him? Lung Qianye suggested. Then he'll try. Lung Ruoxue nodded. In fact, she had contacted the ancestor before, but the ancestor didn't reply to her, so she didn't try again. With that, Lung Ruoxue sent a voice transmission to her ancestor through the voice transmission jade token. However, there was still no reply this time. He didn't reply to me, Lung Ruoxue said in disappointment a moment later. If her ancestor didn't reply to her, and Qingju couldn't monitor his whereabouts, they could only continue searching. Grandpa is probably refining, so he doesn't have time to reply. Don't worry. Lung Qianye comforted himself. After all, he was also worried. I hope so. Since I didn't find any useful information today, I don't have to go out today to avoid arousing suspicion. Lung Ruoxue thought for a moment. Okay. Everyone nodded, and then asked to return to the space to cultivate. Lung Ruoxue sent them into the bracelet. For 3 days in a row, Fengde and the others would go out to the streets every day. This time, they changed their strategy and only strolled on the streets. They did not ask anything and first got to know each other so that they would not be suspected. After 3 days of hard work, their strategy was beginning to bear fruit. At least someone was willing to talk to them. They also openly and secretly asked about the internal gossip of the First Alliance. After some people opened up, they could not shut up. They would tell them all the good and bad things, making Fengde and the others not know whether to laugh or cry. As for the unlucky ape and his subordinates, they were still lying on the ground and ignored. Fengde and the others would pass by them every day, either intentionally or unintentionally. Then, after returning to the guest room, they would start discussing. Fengde and the others even made a bet out of boredom, guessing how many days it would take for the ape to be brought back by the First Alliance. After another 3 days, Fengde and the others finally got some information. Lung Xiaoyu was indeed in the First Alliance, but he was not invited by the First Alliance master. Instead, he was imprisoned as a hostage. When Lung Ruoxue heard this news, she was completely furious. However, the person who told them this like a thief did not know the exact situation. He only knew that it was related to refining weapons. It had something to do with refining weapons? Lung Ruoxue thought for a long time but couldn't think of anything. If he wanted to refine weapons, so be it. Why did he have to imprison him? Could it be that his ancestor was unwilling to refine weapons for the Alliance Master, so the Alliance Master locked him up in a fit of anger? Thinking of this, Lung Ruoxue felt that it was possible. However, Lung Qianye rejected her idea. Lung Qianye knew his grandfather very well. He was a person who did as he pleased. However, he took refining very seriously and treated refining as important as his own life. Therefore, even if it was someone or an enemy he didn't like, as long as you could pay or take out the materials he was interested in, he would still refine equipment for you. Therefore, he did not think that his grandfather was locked up because he was unwilling to refine weapons for the Alliance Master. After all, other than the matter with the ape, They did not have any blood feud with the Alliance Master. Therefore, if the Alliance Master really looked for his grandfather should not refuse to refine weapons for him. At most, he would make him bankrupt. Grandpa often said that enemies did not have to kill him to vent their anger. There were many ways to torture people, and killing the other party directly was the least painful. Therefore, his grandfather would never make a loss. Leng Qianye knew very well that although his grandfather looked cold on the outside, he was actually black-hearted. In the guest room, Leng Ruoxue and the others gathered. "Miss, why don't I turn invisible and search the First Alliance?" Fengde suggested. "You might not be able to find it if you go. The only way now is to go straight to the First League." Leng Ruoxue frowned and pondered, then said, "Shuer, do you want to go straight to the door and ask for her? The Alliance Master will probably pretend not to know." Empty reminded her. This matter seemed to be a secret in the Alliance, and not many people knew about it. "Miss, can we enter directly?" Chengwu frowned. "Little Shuer, I'm afraid we won't even be able to enter the First Alliance," Leng Qianye said. "Who said we can't enter? We're the saviors of his precious son." Leng Ruoxue smiled evilly and turned her attention to the ape that no one cared about. It had been a few days and no one had claimed the ape yet. Now it just happened to be useful to them. Miss, you're too ruthless," Fengde said with admiration. They were the ones who beat him up. Now they had become his saviors again. Hehe. If that ape knew the truth, he would be furious. "I have no choice. Fengde, bring a few people to save the ape. We can come as his savior," Leng Ruoxue instructed. "Hehe. Okay. Don't worry, miss. I know what to do," Fengde promised and left with a few people. Not long after, Fengde and the others returned with the unconscious ape. They were just short of beating the gongs and drums to make everyone know about it. Their ostentatious actions also caused a commotion in the inn. "Sai, my lord, why did you bring the beggar back?" The shopkeeper frowned when he saw the person Fengde and the others were carrying. His eyelids twitched and his expression was very ugly. "Shopkeeper, he's not a beggar. We picked him up on the road and he's injured. We can't just leave him in the lurch," Fengde said loudly, afraid that the people in the inn could not hear him. Glancing at the ape again, Fengde was already laughing in his heart. He thought to himself, oh, if the ape woke up and knew that he had been treated as a beggar, would it break down? The current ape really looked like a beggar no matter how one looked at it. Not only was it covered in injuries, but its clothes were also covered in a thick layer of dust. After all, it had been exposed to the wind and sun for a few days. How could it look good? However, this was not his concern now. The only thing he had to do was become this ape savior. Chapter 943. The Savior 5. In any case, you must not bring such a filthy person into the inn, the innkeeper said with an air of refusal to bend the rules. In the last few days, he had heard of beggars lying in a street, but many seemed to have chosen to ignore them. Why did these people have to meddle? The innkeeper could not understand. "Shopkeeper, don't be so heartless. Haven't you heard that saving a life is better than building a 7-storied pagoda? As long as you show mercy, you will definitely be rewarded," Fengde coaxed. "That won't do. With him around, it will affect my business." The shopkeeper still refused to give in, and he was even more unwilling to let Fengde bring this trouble to his shop. When Leng Ruoxue and the others arrived downstairs, they happened to see Fengde arguing with the shopkeeper, so they pretended to be puzzled and asked, "What's wrong? What happened?" "Miss, we saved someone on the street. The shopkeeper refused to let us bring him to the guest shop," Fengde quickly complained, looking aggrieved. "The shopkeeper is afraid that you will affect his business." "Well, it's not wrong for him to think that way." Leng Ruoxue smiled and explained on behalf of the shopkeeper. When the shopkeeper heard Leng Ruoxue's words, he was so touched that he almost cried. Finally, someone understood him. It hadn't been easy. "Then what should we do? We can't just leave him in the lurch. He's very pitiful," Fengde said awkwardly. He looked at the thing in his hand. It didn't seem appropriate to put it anywhere. "Shopkeeper, since my subordinates discovered him and brought him back, you can't let us throw this person out, right? I believe that you're not such a heartless person, so how about this? Please be magnanimous, and let us keep this person. I'll pay double the room fee. Lung Ruoxue praised the shopkeeper simply, and then suggested, all right then. I'll let him stay for the sake of Miss. However, don't let him run around. He'll scare the other customers in the shop with his current appearance. Such a peerless bowtie's soft request was really impossible for the shopkeeper to refuse. Therefore he agreed after some thought. After all, she was willing to pay double the room fee. Thank you, shopkeeper. Please help him get a room. Lung Ruoxue said with a faint smile. All right. The shopkeeper agreed readily. Then he arranged a room for the beggar and kept muttering, You've met a good person. After returning to her room, Lung Ruoxue asked Feng De to send medicine to the ape. However, she did not intend to cure all the apes, so the pill could only guarantee that the ape would wake up. Miss, the ape is awake, Feng De said when he returned. Okay, let's go see him. Lung Ruoxue chuckled and left the room. When they arrived at the door of the ape room, Lung Ruoxue and the others pushed open the door and walked straight in. The ape, who was lying on the bed, immediately turned his head when he heard the sound. When he saw the peerless beauty in the room, he revealed an extremely stunned gaze. If it weren't for the fact that his body was inconvenient, he would have pounced on her long ago. Where did such a beauty come from? She was really too beautiful. Ape couldn't help but praise in his heart. His heart had long flown to Lung Ruoxue's side, and his lecherous eyes were firmly glued to her body. You're awake? Lung Ruoxue asked knowingly, and resisted the urge to punch him because this man's gaze was really annoying. Well, you are, the ape asked politely, pretending to be a gentleman, but his eyes were already betraying the filthy thoughts that ran through his mind. My surname is Ning, Lung Ruoxue said casually. So it's Miss Ning. Thank you for saving me. I will definitely repay you well. The ape said gratefully. He was even more pleasantly surprised because he did not expect his savior to be the famous Miss Ning. Miss Ning's beauty was second to none in the divine continent. However, he had never had the chance to see her. He did not expect that he would be saved by Miss Ning, whom he had admired for a long time. He could not help but feel a little lightheaded looking at the peerless beauty in front of him. Miss Ning, why did you come to the Ascender Alliance and not stay in the Ning family's divine realm? The ape asked curiously. Even though there were often conflicts between Ascenders and natives, the opposition between any faction was not absolute. There would be conflict between them, but there would also be benefits. He was ignorant and incompetent, but his many years of experience in the Ascender Alliance made him very clear about the interests of the various forces. Therefore, he naturally did not treat this devastatingly beautiful woman as an enemy. Lung Ruoxue was stunned when she heard the ape's words. She didn't expect the ape to treat her as the young lady of the Ning family. Even though she had just casually said her surname, this accident gave her a better inspiration. Thinking of this, Lung Ruoxue couldn't help but say with a worried expression, I want to refine an equipment for my father as a gift, but I haven't been able to find the best weapon artificer in the divine continent. I've been looking for him for a long time. Recently, I heard that he once appeared in the Ascender Alliance, so I came to try my luck. A craftsman? Miss Ning, our Ascender Alliance has several artificers who are very good. Why don't I get them to help you refine equipment? The ape said fawningly. Our Ning family has an artificer, but my father only likes the equipment refined by His Excellency Lung Xiaoyu, so I've been looking for him. I want to make father happy because father has been worried about my marriage recently. Lung Ruoxue deliberately pretended to be guilty of her daughter. Miss Ning's marriage? The ape probed. Yes. I'm not young anymore. Father is looking for a husband for me. Lung Ruoxue said shyly, but she was sweating in her heart. It was really not easy to act like a young girl in love. If someone can help me find Lung Xiaoyu's whereabouts and have his help on refining weapons, father will definitely be very happy. He might even marry me to him. Lung Ruoxue continued to throw out a huge bait. Miss Ning, does it have to be Lung Xiaoyu? The ape said with some difficulty. He was also very regretful in his heart. Sigh. That Lung Xiaoyu had a grudge against him. He was afraid that he wouldn't be able to order her around. He knew this very well. Yes, my father wants only him, Lung Ruoxue said with certainty. However, I also know that it's not easy to hire Lung Xiaoyu. So if someone knows Lung Xiaoyu's whereabouts and informs me, father will be very happy to know, Lung Ruoxia added. Hearing Lung Ruoxia's words, Ape fell silent. He was even more conflicted because he knew Lung Xiaoyu's whereabouts, but his father had repeatedly ordered him not to tell anyone, so he was very hesitant. Lung Ruoxia saw that the ape was silent, and did not disturb him because she knew that the ape needed time to think. It was probably not a glorious thing for the old ancestor to be imprisoned by the Alliance Master. After thinking for a long time, the ape made up his mind and finally made a final decision. Sigh. He would risk everything for his future happiness. Miss Ning, I know where Lung Xiaoyu is, but he has angered my father because of something, so he is being punished. I don't know if my father will let him help you refine weapons. The ape deliberately pretended to be troubled. Even though he liked to bully the weak, he was not stupid at all. He knew very well what to say and what not to say. The real reason why Lung Xiaoyu was locked up could not be said. Oh, I wonder who is your father? Lung Ruoxia's face was full of question marks. My father is the Alliance Master of the Ascender Alliance of the Divine Continent, the ape said proudly. So you're the Alliance Master's young master. Sorry for being disrespectful. Lung Ruoxia said in realization. Hee Miss Ning, you're too polite. You're my savior. The ape said shyly. Young Master Yuan, you don't have to be too polite. Anyone who passed by would have helped you. Lung Ruoxia chuckled. I wonder if you can introduce me to the next Alliance Master? I believe I can convince the Alliance Master to order Lord Lung Xiaoyu to refine weapons for my father. Lung Ruoxia said with certainty. Chapter 944. The Suspicious Yuan Biao 1. Of course there's no problem with introducing you. But I'm not sure if my father will agree to let Lung Xiaoyu help you refine weapons. The ape did not dare to be too confident because he was not confident in convincing his father. It's okay, as long as young Master Yuan can introduce me to the next Alliance Master. I'll do the rest myself. Lung Ruoxia chuckled. Her smile was like 100 flowers blooming, making the ape dizzy. Miss Ning, don't worry. I'll help you, the ape said seriously. Then I'll thank young Master Yuan first, Lung Ruoxia said politely. Miss Ning, you're too polite. You're my savior. I said that I would repay you properly, the ape said very seriously. Young Master Yuan, saving you is also fate. Why are you still talking about repaying us? You've just woken up, so I won't disturb you anymore. Have a good rest. Lung Ruoxia suppressed her disgust and left with everyone. Miss Ning, the ape muttered to himself as he looked at Lung Ruoxia's back. He made up his mind to find a way for Lung Xiaoyu to refine weapons for Miss Ning. How could he bear to disappoint such a peerless beauty? Moreover, this was also for his future happiness, so he believed that it was all worth it. After leaving the ape's room, Lung Ruoxia felt a pair of resentful eyes locked on her. She couldn't help but sigh softly. Sigh. She knew who it was without even looking. Freak. Lung Ruoxia called out softly, but she didn't say anything. I'm jealous, Schwer, Freak said, pouting unhappily. Please keep reading NMYB Zero's novel. Be good. This is just a temporary measure. Lung Ruoxia coaxed as if no one was around, ignoring the gazes of Fengda and the others. Humph. That damn monkey actually dared to have designs on you. When this matter is over, I'll definitely teach him a lesson. The freak clenched his fists and said fiercely. Yes. When we find who we need, you can do whatever you want with him. Lung Ruoxia said quickly. Schwer, I'm a little hurt. You have to comfort me. The freak took the opportunity to wheedle. Alright. Lung Ruoxia was helpless. After returning to her room, she could only bring the freak into the bracelet and comfort him. Miss is really pitiful. Commander Yi will definitely eat her up. After Lung Ruoxia and the freak entered the bracelet, Fengda, who stayed in the room, couldn't help but sigh. What do you know? Miss, this is all because of love. Hearing Fengda's words, Lu Tao was unhappy and couldn't help but defend her Mississippi. If she didn't love someone, who would accommodate them unconditionally? Yes. Lu Tao is right. It's all because of love. I will do the same. Fengda quickly said fawningly. At least you're sensible, Lu Tao said smugly, rolling her eyes at Fonda. Hee. Lu Tao, my heart is also injured. Can you comfort me too? Fonda smiled evilly and looked at Lu Tao expectantly. Yes, sure. Let's go. Let's find an empty room. I'll comfort you. Lu Tao smiled. Well, since Fonda had this wish, how could she bear to disappoint him? Let's go. Fonda was very happy. He finally had a chance to get close to her. It was really not easy. Just like that, Lu Tao and Fonda found an empty room and closed the door tightly, cutting off everyone's curious gazes. How do you think Lu Tao will comfort the captain? Someone asked curiously. I don't know. Song Di shook his head, his face full of anticipation. Well, they didn't dare to discuss Miss Matter, but they could still discuss Fonda's matter. Tisk, is there a need to say that? The captain must be in trouble. There's no one around Miss who isn't violent, especially women, Lin Yuan said understandingly. Actually, he didn't think highly of Fonda. What did you say? If you have the guts, why don't you repeat what you just said? Hearing this, Chuizhu narrowed her eyes and said with a faint smile, After following Miss for so many years, she had also gained a lot of knowledge. She was no longer the innocent and cute little girl from before. Therefore, she was determined to defend the rights and interests of women. Please keep reading on MYB 0X and 0VL. C0M. I didn't say anything really. Lin Yuan corrected himself shamelessly and wailed in his heart. Boo. He was right. The women beside Miss were indeed violent. However, he had forgotten that there was a woman standing beside him. He was doomed. He stole a glance at Chuizhu, who was glaring at him with her hands on her waist. Lin Yuan's heart was beating nonstop. Not long after, there was the sound of thunder from the room Fonda, and Lu Tao had just entered. Then Fonda's wail. Lu Tao, calm down. Calm down. Fonda's voice came from the room from time to time. When everyone heard this, their foreheads could not help but drip with cold sweat. However, they could not help but secretly laugh in their hearts. This time they had gone for wool and come home shorn. How could tofu be so delicious? However, when Fonda walked out of the room with Lu Tao as if nothing had happened, everyone saw the 2 bruises on Fonda's eyes. Even though they suppressed their laughter, their flushed faces revealed their thoughts. I fell down accidentally, Fonda explained awkwardly. He was clearly trying to hide something. In fact, it would have been better if he hadn't explained. Everyone could have resisted pretending that nothing had happened. But now that he had, they couldn't help but laugh. Haha. Seeing everyone laughing wildly, Fonda looked at Lu Tao with resentment and felt extremely aggrieved. Boo-hoo. It was really too embarrassing. It was alright if she wanted to beat him, but why did she have to beat his face? How could he face anyone now? Fonda, how did you fall down? Why are the injuries so neat? Even the size is the same. Oh. You look a little like the panda that Miss mentioned. Even though Chengwu was laughing and out of breath, he could not help but tease him. Chapter 945. The suspicious Yuan Biao too. Do you want to try too? Fonda narrowed his eyes and said dangerously. No. I want to live a few more years. Chengwu said with a look of fear. Women were tigers. He was afraid. Sooner or later, you'll have a chance to, Fonda said fiercely. No. My heart is not that fragile. Chengwu said with a naughty smile. Definitely. Just you wait, Fonda said with certainty. Captain, does it hurt? Quite a bump, Captain, isn't it? Fonda's subordinates also asked with concern. However, their eyes were filled with anticipation. You'll know if it hurts when you get it, Fonda growled. Then he looked at Lin Yuan and asked, what are we eating later? Tofu, Lin Yuan said with a smile. Please keep reading Zero in MYB Zero's novel. Calm what? Fonda glared and roared. I said tofu. We all want to have tofu today, Lin Yuan said fearlessly. Well, there were not many such opportunities, so they had to seize them. Yes. Everyone nodded cooperatively. It's good to eat tofu. Healthy. Song Di suddenly said with a serious expression. Instantly, everyone laughed again. However, Feng Da's expression was not so good. Just you wait. This day will come sooner or later. I curse you to be even more miserable than me. Feng Da's face darkened as he said angrily. Ooh. He had really lost face today. He didn't get to take advantage of her, and even became the target of ridicule. Lu Tao. You have to compensate me when you have the chance. Feng Da muttered to himself. Captain, you can't do that. They all said in unison, and then burst out laughing. In the bracelet. When Lung Ruoxue and the freak walked out of the purple bamboo house and saw the dishes on the dining table, they said in confusion, why is it all tofu today? Even though this tofu was very nutritious, she couldn't make all the dishes on the table. Lung Ruoxue's head hurt when she saw these dishes. Feng Da, what's wrong with your eyes? Lung Ruoxue inadvertently turned her head and saw Feng Da hiding in the crowd with two panda eyes. She couldn't help but ask curiously, oh, did something happen that she didn't know about? Nothing. I accidentally bumped into it. Feng Da felt that he was too ashamed to face anyone. Boo. It was too embarrassing. He decided that he wanted to stay in the space. He would go out when the bruises on his eyes disappeared. It was Lu Tao's fault for not allowing him to take pills. Then you're really too careless. Lung Ruoxue suppressed her laughter and did not expose him. Sigh. She was not stupid. How could she not tell that Feng Da was beaten up? However, even if Feng Da did not say it, she could guess who beat him up. After all, there were not many people in this world who could make Feng Da willingly be beaten up. Miss, I'll stay in the space for the time being, Feng Da said aggrievedly. Why? Lung Ruoxue's face was full of question marks. I'm injured. I'll go out after I recover. Feng Da found a dignified excuse for himself. Then he stole a glance at Lung Ruoxue, his heart in turmoil. It's just a small injury. Just take a pill. Don't think about slacking off. We still have to go to the First Alliance. Lung Ruoxue said disapprovingly. If Feng Da stayed in the space, he wouldn't be able to come out easily in the First Alliance. Please keep reading on MYB0X and 0VL, C0M. I can't take pills, Feng Da whispered weakly and lowered his head, not daring to look at Lung Ruoxue. What's the reason? Lung Ruoxue couldn't understand. Why couldn't he take pills? He would only recover quickly after taking pills, even though he didn't think the two bruises on Feng Da's eyes were considered injuries. Lu Tao, don't allow me to eat it. She said that eating the pill wouldn't be good for my injuries, Feng Da said aggrievedly. In that case, stay in the space. Lung Ruoxue held back her laughter and said helplessly. Alas! This was clearly someone punishing Feng Da. However, it was not convenient for her to ask about her subordinates' family matters. Yes. Feng Da was overjoyed to hear his lady agree. Let's eat. Lung Ruoxue looked at the tofu on the table and said speechlessly. However, since she had made it, she had to eat it. Otherwise, it would be too wasteful. However, after this meal, no one had any intention of eating tofu for the time being. 2 days later, the ape was able to stand up. Even though his injuries were still acting up, he was much better than when he had first woken up. In the ape's room, Lung Ruoxue pretended to be worried as she looked at the ape sitting on the bed and said helplessly, Young Master Yuan, I've tried my best to heal your injuries. I know. Thank you, Miss Ning, the ape said gratefully. His injury was very strange. He looked healed, but it hurt terribly when it acted up, so he had suffered a lot in the past 2 days. Young Master Yuan, why don't I send someone to inform Alliance Master Yuan and ask him to pick you up? The Ascender Alliance is filled with talents. Perhaps they will have a way to treat your injuries. Lung Ruoxue frowned and thought for a moment before asking. But I really don't want father to see me like this, the ape said hesitantly. He deliberately only said half of what he wanted to say. Actually, he wasn't afraid that his father would see his current situation. He was clearly afraid that he wouldn't be able to see the Miss Ning he liked. However, if Miss Ning could live with him in the First Alliance, that would be a different story. He couldn't help but think to himself, then what should we do? If your injury is delayed, I'm afraid it will affect your health, Lung Ruoxue said as if she understood him very well. There was still worry on her beautiful face. Miss Ning, actually, I haven't returned to the First Alliance for so many days. I'm also afraid that father will be worried, but I'm even more afraid that father will see me like this. Sigh. What do you think I should do? The ape said helplessly. You still have to go back. Like you said, you haven't been home for a few days. Your father must have been worried to death, Lung Ruoxue reminded. Yes, you have a point. Miss Ning, send someone to deliver a letter for me. This is a token. With this, no one will dare to stop you. The ape handed Lung Ruoxue a golden token. Chapter 946. The Suspicious Yuan Biao 3. Okay, I'll send someone over in a while. Lung Ruoxue took the token handed over by the ape and casually glanced at it. Her heart kept thumping. This Ascender alliance was really showy. Even the token was made of gold. However, the gold in this world didn't seem to be anything precious. Miss Ning, didn't you want to find Lung Xiaoyu? He's in the First League. Why don't you come with me to stay in the First League? This way you can find a chance to persuade my father. Of course, I'll help you too. The ape finally revealed his plan. That's not too good. With my identity, it doesn't seem appropriate for me to live in the First League. Otherwise, I'm afraid it will cause some Ascenders to be dissatisfied. Lung Ruoxue said as if she was in a difficult position. In fact, she was already overjoyed because she was waiting for the ape to take the bait. It's okay. They don't dare to be disrespectful to Miss Ning. Otherwise, I won't let them off, the ape promised. Young Master Yuan, my visit to the Ascender Alliance is confidential, so? Lung Ruoxue deliberately didn't finish her sentence because she was waiting for the ape to continue. I understand, Miss Ning. Don't worry, I won't leak your identity, the ape hurriedly said. He knew Miss Ning's concerns very well. And he also knew that there were indeed some people in the Ascender Alliance who were very repulsed by the natives. However, in his opinion, this was not a big deal. After all, his father was the person in charge of the Ascender Alliance in the Divine Continent. I feel so much more relieved with young Master Yuan's guarantee, Lung Ruoxue said with a look of relief. Then Miss Ning means. The ape was a little uncertain. Didn't young Master Yuan want to invite me to the First League as a guest? I agree to do it, Lung Ruoxue said with a faint smile. That faint toothy smile was like a warm spring breeze that blew into the ape's heart again, making him feel a little smug. Yes, yes. The ape nodded repeatedly, feeling extremely intoxicated in the depths of its heart. Those lifeless eyes were filled with countless hearts. Please keep reading Zero and MYB Zero's novel. Come, young Master Yuan, have a good rest. I'll send someone to inform Alliance Master Yuan later. Seeing that her goal had been achieved, Lung Ruoxue didn't want to see the ape that had started to become infatuated, so she quickly bade farewell. The ape sat on the bed with a silly smile, thinking about something. After Lung Ruoxue returned to her room, she instructed Cheng Wu and Song Di to go to the First League with the token. After a long time, the two of them returned, followed by a few people sent by the Alliance Master. Then Lung Ruoxue and the others followed the ape into the First Alliance. Because Lung Ruoxue and the others had the dual identities of Miss Ning and the Alliance Master's savior, they were arranged to stay in the best guest room in the First Alliance. Looking at the decorations in the room, Lung Ruoxue couldn't help but click her tongue in wonder. This alliance was really extravagant. They actually decorated the guest room so luxuriously. Were they afraid that others wouldn't know that they were rich? The walls of the room were inlaid with many crystals. Moreover, most of them were top grade, and the worst was high grade. As for the furnishings, they were all carved from secret gold and mithril. This mystic gold and mithril were both materials for refining weapons. Moreover, they were expensive, but they were used to carve them into decorations. This made Lung Ruoxue very speechless. Lass, when we leave this place, let's bring the crystals on the wall and the decorations in the room with us. The disheveled old man said with some envy. Well, do that. Lung Ruoxue nodded in agreement. Girl, we can't forget the flowers in the garden. The little old man also reminded her. Alas! What a waste! Those flowers were actually used as ornamental plants to decorate the garden. One had to know that there were a few rare medicinal herbs inside. Yes. Lung Ruoxue also felt that it was a waste to leave such a good thing in the First Alliance. However, she didn't understand. Logically speaking, the First Alliance raised many alchemists and blacksmiths. How could they not know that some things were difficult to obtain even with money? Lung Ruoxue and the others toured casually. After the tour, they quietly waited in the room. At this moment, in Yuan Biao's study, Yuan Biao was sitting in a chair, listening to his trusted subordinate's report. Alliance Master, according to you, I've already arranged for Miss Ning and the others to stay at the Falling Swallow residence, the subordinate said very respectfully. Oh, is there anything unusual about them? Yuan Biao asked very cautiously. Even though he had never seen his son's savior, he heard from Hoer that the woman who saved him was the young lady of the Ning family. However, he did not believe that woman's identity. Please keep reading on MYB0XN0VL. C0M. If she was really the young lady of the Ning family, why would she come to the Ascender Alliance? It had to be known that the forces of the Ascender Alliance and the natives were incompatible on the surface. Even though there were no absolute friends or enemies in this world, he just couldn't believe that woman's identity, and was even more afraid that his son would be used by others. After all, although he had many women, he only had this one son. Therefore, he usually treasured him very much. Unfortunately, before Hoer could finish speaking, his injuries acted up again. Not yet, the subordinate replied. He did not dare to be too sure. Do you think that woman is Miss Ning? Yuan Biao asked indifferently, but his gloomy face was expressionless. I'm not very sure either. However, that Miss Ning is as beautiful as a flower and has an extraordinary temperament. She definitely doesn't look like the daughter of an ordinary family, the subordinate said honestly. When he first saw that woman, he was also stunned and couldn't help but sigh. How could there be such a beautiful woman in the world? Oh, Yuan Biao listened to his subordinate's words and replied indifferently before falling silent. Alliance Master, the young master has recovered. Suddenly, the guard's report sounded outside the door. Hearing the guard's report, Yuan Biao stood up from his chair, opened the door, and walked towards the original residence. After walking into Yuan's house room, Yuan Biao looked at his son with some heartache and said with concern, Hoer, are you feeling better now? Father, I'm fine, Yuan Ho said weakly. His face was very pale after the pain. That's good. Yuan Biao was relieved. He only had one son, and he usually doted on him. This time, he didn't know who he had provoked to cause trouble. So, he really didn't let him worry. Chapter 947. The Suspicious Yuan Biao 4. Father, where's Miss Ning? She saved my life. You can't neglect her. Yuan Ho said worriedly. Don't worry, father will treat them well. Yuan Biao said helplessly. He couldn't help but sigh in his heart. Sigh. A grown son really couldn't be kept at home. Hoer, is she really Miss Ning? Yuan Biao asked suspiciously. Father, how could there be someone who dares to pretend to be Miss Ning? You'll know when you see her, Yuan Ho said with a smitten expression. Miss Ning's beauty was famous in the divine continent. If that woman wasn't Miss Ning, then who else was worthy of being called Miss Ning? Oh, according to my son, I really have to find time to meet Miss Ning. Yuan Biao chuckled and teased. He could tell that the Miss Ning his son mentioned had long taken his soul away. However, I don't understand why Miss Ning came to our Ascender Alliance. Yuan Biao still couldn't completely believe his son's words, so he asked again. Father, she's here to look for Lung Xiaoyu, Yuan Ho said after some thought. He had yet to tell his father about this, but he had to say it sooner or later. Why is she looking for Lung Xiaoyu? Yuan Biao immediately became vigilant after hearing Yuan Hao's words. After all, not many people knew that Lung Xiaoyu was in his hands. How could a woman know? She asked Lung Xiaoyu to refine weapons for her father, Yuan Ho said. How did she know that Lung Xiaoyu is in our Ascender Alliance? Yuan Biao narrowed his eyes and asked dangerously. Please keep reading 0 in MYB0's novel. Come, she doesn't know. I told her. The original owner said quickly. You said that? Didn't I warn you not to let anyone know about this? Why did you still tell her? Yuan Biao said resentfully. Why didn't he know that his useless son had actually become a Casanova? Everyone said that girls looked good on the outside. Why was it the other way around when it came to him? Father, Miss Ning is my savior. Moreover, if I can get Leng Xiaoyu to refine weapons for her, she will definitely be very happy, Yuan Biao said shyly. You betrayed your father just for a woman? Yuan Biao regretted letting him know so much about him. Now he had raised an ingrate. He and Miss Ning had yet to do anything, but he already knew how to betray his father to please a woman. Sigh. He was really sad. Father, how can this be considered betraying you? Don't you want to build a relationship with the Ning family? If I can marry the Ning family's young miss, you'll also be proud, the original Marquis said with a hint of flattery. He knew that only by coaxing his father would his father possibly let Miss Ning see Leng Xiaoyu. Humph. If you can marry the young lady of the Ning family, perhaps I will be happier, Yuan Biao said very realistically. The young lady of the Ning family was naturally referring to the direct line. Even though the Ning family's head's line on the god's mainland was also considered a direct line, it was still a little inferior to the main family. I only like the young miss of the Ning family on the divine continent. As for the main family's Miss Ning, who knows what she looks like? What if she's an ugly freak? Yuan Ho said disapprovingly. In any case, he had his eyes on Miss Ning. You useless brat. Yuan Biao stomped his feet in anger hearing Yuan Hao's words. Father, you'll help me, right? Yuan Ho didn't care how his father scolded him. Anyway, he knew that his father would definitely agree in the end. No, I can promise you anything else, but not this. Yuan Biao refused, but he couldn't help but sigh in his heart. Sigh. It seemed that this son of his had really been spoiled. How could he continue like this? Father, don't you love me anymore? Boo. Mother. Father doesn't love me anymore. Take me with you, Yuan Ho said with tears in his eyes. As for the mother he mentioned, she died not long after giving birth to him. Therefore, every time his father was unwilling to satisfy his request, he would very unfilially mention his mother who had already passed away. The result of doing this could be said to be tried and tested. You unfilial son. Yuan Biao roared in exasperation. Then he flicked his sleeves and turned to leave in anger. Father. Yuan Ho lay on the bed and called out softly. He did not expect his father to not agree to him this time. Boo. He could not accept this fact. Yuan Biao was so angry that he turned around and left the original husband's room before returning to his study. Sitting on a chair in the study, Yuan Biao looked at his very respectful subordinate standing in front of him and said angrily, How's the investigation going? Alliance Master, we didn't find any clues about the person who injured the young master. However, I did find out that Miss Ning's subordinate has been looking for someone recently, the subordinate reported. Please keep reading on MYB0XN0VL. C0M looking for someone? Is it Leng Xiaoyu? Yuan Biao asked with a frown. As for who? I haven't found out yet, the subordinate said uneasily. You haven't found out? Why are you so useless? Can't you even handle such a small matter? Yuan Biao roared angrily, venting all the anger he had provoked from his son on this unlucky subordinate. He couldn't bear to hit or scold his only son. Would he care about a subordinate? Alliance Master, I've already done my best, the unlucky subordinate said helplessly. The young master had been injured for a few days, and now he only remembered to ask him to find someone. Wasn't this like finding a needle in a haystack? Where could he find someone like this? Moreover, the murderer had probably left the Ascender Alliance a long time ago. After all, which fool would stay here and wait to be caught after injuring someone? He couldn't help but secretly grumble. Try your best. You can't find the murderer who injured my son, but you don't know who that Miss Ning is looking for. Tell me, what else can you do? I know that the person Miss Ning is looking for is Leng Xiaoyu. Yuan Biao roared. Alliance Master, that Miss Ning has been staying in the guest shop since she came to the Ascender Alliance. Even though her subordinates often go out to look for people, who have they contacted? We can't find out in such a short time. Alliance Master, please give me some time, the unlucky subordinate pleaded. No need. I already know who she's looking for, Yuan Biao snapped. Chapter 948. The Suspicious Yuan Biao 5. I'm giving you a mission now. Go and find out for me if she's really Miss Ning, Yuan Biao instructed. After all, his doubts had not really been dispelled. Moreover, he had also thought about it just now. If she was really Miss Ning, it was not impossible for Leng Xiaoyu to refine weapons for her. Alas! Who asked him to only have such a precious son? Please rest assured, Patriarch. I will definitely investigate it thoroughly. The subordinate hurriedly promised and secretly decided that he would definitely atone for his crimes this time. After saying that, the subordinate left the study. However, Yuan Biao did not believe the guarantee of that unlucky subordinate. Not long after, he arranged for another person to investigate Miss Ning's identity. After giving the instructions, he was finally relieved. Well, this should be foolproof. Time passed, and soon 3 days passed. In the middle of the falling swallow dwelling, Leng Ruoxue and the others sat in the courtyard in boredom. It had been 3 days. Apart from delivering food to them on time, no one from the First League had actually come looking for them, and they couldn't move around too openly. However, they had sneaked around a few times in stealth, but they hadn't found any clues. Miss, the Yuan father and son wouldn't have forgotten about us, right? Fengde said listlessly. Did you forget to arrange for someone to send us food? Leng Ruoxue rolled her eyes at Fengde and asked speechlessly. But no one is paying attention to us. Fengde was very depressed. He was so free that his hair was about to grow out. He really wanted to create trouble like before. However, it was not possible here. Please keep reading Zero in MYB0's novel. Come, Yuan Biao won't see me before confirming my identity, Leng Ruoxue said knowingly. In the past 3 days, Yuan Biao had never shown his face. Apart from the fact that the ape often had an attack, it was also because he hadn't confirmed his identity. Then how will he confirm your identity, miss? Fengde was very curious. I don't know, but they should send someone to the Ning family's divine realm. Leng Ruoxue guessed after thinking for a while. Miss, if he really sends someone to the Ning family's divine realm, won't his identity as the young miss be exposed? Fengde whispered worriedly. Even though Miss had never admitted that she was the young miss of the Ning family, this was still very disadvantageous to them. After all, the ape was certain. What are you afraid of? Since you're here, take it easy. Leng Ruoxue wasn't worried because she had never clearly told the ape that she was from the Ning family in the Ning family's divine realm. The ape had misunderstood. Hee. How could the people of this world play word games with her, a person from another world? Miss, are you really not worried? If our identities are exposed, it will be very disadvantageous for us to search for your ancestor, Fengde reminded. However, he admired his Miss calmness. Alas, he could not compare to her. What's there to worry about? This is a misunderstanding. Who can they blame? Leng Ruoxue said irresponsibly. Fengde understood. Miss had already thought of a countermeasure. No wonder she looked so calm. Stay here in peace. He will let us see our cheap ancestor, Leng Ruoxue said with a light smile. Yes. Fengde and the others nodded. If Miss said she would definitely do it. At the same time, Yuan Biao was like an ant on a hot pan. He kept pacing outside the original Marquis room, his heart burning with anxiety. Damn it, he didn't know how many times Hoer's illness had acted up. Previously, he had clearly said that Hoer was fine, but for the past 3 days, his son's injuries had repeatedly acted up 2 or 3 times a day. Moreover, every time the illness acted up, Hoer's body would be extremely weak. This couldn't help but make his heart ache and feel helpless. Not only that, he even found all the alchemists in the alliance, but they were all helpless. This made him so anxious that his hair was about to turn white. Listening to the wails coming from the room, he really didn't feel good. After a while, the room finally fell silent. As the door of the room opened, several people dressed as alchemists walked out. There were men and women among them. From their appearance, they looked to be in their early 30s. However, people from the god realm could not just look at their appearance. How are Hoer's injuries? Is there a way to treat them? Yuan Biao asked anxiously. Please keep reading on MYB0XN0VL. C0M, Alliance Master. There's nothing we can do. The young master hasn't been poisoned and his injuries are almost healed, but he still relapses from time to time. As for the reason, we haven't found it yet. A rather calm man said helplessly. Logically speaking, he had treated many strange and complicated illnesses, but he couldn't do anything about the young master's illness. Sigh. Thinking of this, he couldn't help but sigh. It seemed that he wasn't skilled enough. One had to know that there was always someone better. There was no end to learning. Alliance Master, we've tried all kinds of medicinal pills to treat internal and external injuries. However, they don't seem to be able to treat young master's illness. Sigh. We're really helpless. Alliance Master, you should go to the Alchemist Association and invite a few seniors with high expectations to take a look at young master. An alchemist suggested. All right, I'll immediately send someone to the Alchemist Association to invite someone. When Yuan Biao heard the words of the alchemists, he knew that they really had no choice. Therefore, the only thing he could rely on now was the Alchemist Guild. Alliance Master, we'll take our leave first. The alchemists bowed slightly to Yuan Biao and left the waiting garden where the original host lived. Okay. Yuan Biao nodded. After watching the alchemists leave, he sighed heavily in his heart and pushed open Yuan House door. Father, you're here. Yuan Ho was a little exhausted from the torture. He lay on the bed and greeted him. Sigh. He was so tired that he didn't even want to speak. He didn't know what had happened, but the past few days, when his illness acted up, it was even more unbearable. Ho, how are you feeling? Yuan Biao asked with concern, his eyes filled with concern. Father, hasn't my injury already healed? Why is it still like this? Yuan Ho didn't understand how this could happen. Even though he would have an attack during the few days he stayed in the guest shop, it was only pain. However, when his illness acted up these few days, it wasn't just pain, it was also very itchy. He could endure the pain, but he really couldn't do anything about the itch. Ho, don't worry. Father will immediately send someone to the Alchemist Association to invite someone. They will definitely cure you. Yuan Biao promised. Yes. Yuan Ho nodded. He knew that his father would not leave him alone. Father, have you seen Miss Ning? Did you agree to her request? Yuan Ho couldn't help but ask again. Ho, didn't we agree to let's not talk about this first? Let's treat your injuries first. Yuan Biao said helplessly. Sigh. Ho already looked weak, but he was still worried about that Miss Ning. He really didn't know what charm that Miss Ning had to make his good-for-nothing son so concerned. It seemed that he had to meet that Miss Ning early to prevent this damn child from falling deeper and deeper. Father, just promise me that you'll help her. Yuan Ho pleaded. Let me think about it. Yuan Biao said perfunctorily. Father, this concerns my future happiness. Yuan Ho reminded him. I know. Father knows his limits. Yuan Biao said helplessly. Ho, rest. Father will leave first, Yuan Biao said again. After saying that, he turned around and left Yuan house room. After returning to the study, Yuan Biao thought for a long time. In the end, he decided to meet Miss Ning, who lived in the Falling Swallow dwelling, first. Then he instructed the guards to invite her over. Not long after, the guard who went to inform them returned. Lung Ruoxue was naturally with him. Miss Ning? Please take a seat. Yuan Biao looked at Lung Ruoxue in amazement, but he was secretly surprised. What a beautiful woman. He had lived for so many years and thought that he had seen many women. But those women were worlds apart from Miss Ning in front of him. One was a phoenix, and the other was a chicken. There was no way to compare. Sigh. It was no wonder that his good-for-nothing son would be infatuated with this Miss Ning. There were probably not many people who could reject such a beauty. Even he was a little restless looking at her face to face, let alone that impetuous brat. However, this Miss Ning was beautiful, but her strength was a little low. She was only a spiritual deity. Yuan Biao carefully sized up Lung Ruoxue and pondered. Chapter 949. Doubts Eliminated 1. Lung Ruoxue found a chair and sat down after hearing Yuan Biao's words. Then, she openly let Yuan Biao size her up while she observed the Alliance Master. Yuan Biao was tall, burly, and very rough and strong. Even though he wasn't particularly handsome, his manly aura was very strong. Moreover, he gave off a very shrewd feeling. His strength was at the intermediate level of an advanced god. However, what she couldn't understand was how such a shrewd man could educate such a second-generation heir. Could it be that the ape wasn't his biological child? Leng Ruoxue couldn't help but guess wildly in her heart. Fortunately, Yuan Biao did not know what she was thinking. Otherwise, he would definitely vomit blood from anger. However, Leng Ruoxue saw that Yuan Biao seemed to be very satisfied one moment, and frowned the next. She couldn't help but find it funny. Was Yuan Biao giving her marks? Otherwise, why did he look so conflicted? I've heard a lot about Alliance Master Yuan. Leng Ruoxue said indifferently after a while. Hee Miss Ning, I wonder how you came to our Ascender Alliance? Yuan Biao pretended to be puzzled. I've been looking for Leng Xiaoyu's whereabouts, so I came to this place. Leng Ruoxue said very sincerely. Miss Ning, why are you looking for Leng Xiaoyu? Yuan Biao knew what the consultant was saying and looked at Leng Ruoxue very seriously, as if he planned to find some clues from her words. I'm naturally looking for Lord Leng Xiaoyu to refine weapons. I heard from young Master Yuan that Lord Leng Xiaoyu is in the First Alliance. I wonder if Lord Leng Xiaoyu can let me see him? Leng Ruoxue asked casually. Miss Ning, to be honest, Leng Xiaoyu is indeed with me. However, I can't let you see him yet. After all, he was temporarily locked up by me because he made a mistake. Yuan Biao thought for a while, and observed Leng Ruoxue's reaction. Please keep reading Zero and MYB Zero's novel. In that case, when will Alliance Master Yuan allow me to see him? Leng Ruoxue chuckled and asked disapprovingly. This, I can't say for sure, Yuan Biao said after a pause. After all, even though he had already seen Miss Ning in person, he was still not completely sure of her identity. Alliance Master Yuan, my father likes the equipment refined by Sir Leng Xiaoyu the most. Therefore, as his daughter, I naturally have to do my best to satisfy him, so I hope that you can make an exception. Leng Ruoxue said very sincerely. Miss Ning, it's not that I don't want to give you face, but Leng Xiaoyu made a mistake and it's not appropriate for her to see outsiders, Yuan Biao said with a troubled expression. I wonder what mistake Leng Xiaoyu made. Leng Ruoxue pretended to be curious. He violated the rules of our Ascender Alliance. That's why I locked him up as punishment, Yuan Biao said helplessly. I don't know if Sir Leng Xiaoyu has violated that rule. If it's not serious, I want to plead with the former Alliance Master on his behalf. I hope that Alliance Master Yuan can spare him on my account. Leng Ruoxue said very cautiously, but she couldn't help but feel uneasy in her heart. This Yuan Biao really had the cheek to say that. The ancestor was not a member of the Ascender Alliance now. No matter which rule he violated, Yuan Biao didn't have the right to lock him up. This, Miss Ning, it's really not convenient to talk about Leng Xiaoyu. However, since Miss Ning is pleading on his behalf, I can't not give you face. However, I can't make the decision alone. I still have to discuss with the elders in the alliance before I can finally decide if I can spare him. Yuan Biao played a delaying tactic. Even though he had already decided that if he could prove Miss Ning's true identity, it was not impossible for Leng Xiaoyu to refine weapons for her. However, he couldn't let her get her way easily now. Only then could he show the identity and status of their Ascender Alliance. What Alliance Master Yuan said makes sense. Then he'll wait for the former Alliance Master's good news, Leng Ruoxue said with a light smile. Then, she stopped mentioning this matter and started chatting with Yuan Biao. Alliance Master Yuan, how are your son's injuries? Leng Ruoxue asked with concern. Sigh. Don't mention it. Hoer's injuries make all the alchemists in our alliance helpless. Yuan Biao sighed heavily and said gloomily. How can this be? Isn't young Master Yuan's injuries almost healed? Leng Ruoxue pretended to be in disbelief. It looks like he's recovered, but his injuries still recur occasionally, Yuan Biao said helplessly. This is too strange. However, young Master Yuan's injuries shouldn't be delayed for too long. He has to be treated as soon as possible. Leng Ruoxue said with concern, but she couldn't help but secretly laugh in her heart. In fact, the ape's injuries had long recovered. The occasional relapse was only a side effect. It would dissipate automatically in half a month at most, so there was no need to treat it at all. Well, Torture was inevitable. I wanted to, but I really can't think of any good solution. Sigh. Yuan Biao said with a headache. At the mention of his son, he couldn't help but reveal a true emotion. You don't have to worry, your son is blessed by the heavens. He will definitely recover. Alliance Master, this is my token. Take this token and go to the Alchemist Association to find someone to help. It can be considered as me doing my best for your son, who asked us to have ape feces. Lung Ruoxue took out a token from her storage ring after saying that. The token was silver white with the word Ning engraved on it. Hee. Actually, she had taken this token from Miss Ning. She didn't expect it to be useful today. Please keep reading on MYB0X and 0VL. C0M Yuan Biao took the token and took a look. His thoughts spun. Could it be that she was really Miss Ning? Otherwise, how could this token be explained? He had seen the Ning family's token once, and it was indeed like this. Moreover, the silver token also represented that this Miss Ning in front of him had a high status in the family. Thank you, Miss Ning. I appreciate your kindness, Yuan Biao said calmly. The former Alliance Master doesn't have to be so polite. Lung Ruoxue smiled indifferently. Miss Ning, how is your father's health recently? Even though he had this token that was enough to prove the identity of the woman in front of him, he still didn't dare to confirm it easily, so he probed again. Chapter 950. Doubts eliminated too. Very good. My father has been worried about my marriage recently, Lung Ruoxue said helplessly. Hee, I think Miss Ning has too many suitors. I wonder which one your father chose to be his son-in-law. Yuan Biao teased. Alliance Master Yuan. Lung Ruoxue blushed and was a little embarrassed. Hee, it's normal to get married when you grow up. If I had a daughter as beautiful as you, I would also be worried. Yuan Biao seemed to be deeply touched, and his eyes were filled with envy. Doesn't Alliance Master Yuan have many daughters? I'm afraid you won't be able to not worry, right? Lung Ruoxue teased. Hee, I don't have a daughter as beautiful as you. However, that son of mine has me worried sick. Sigh. Yuan Biao was very helpless. Now whenever he mentioned his useless son, he could not help but sigh. Alliance Master Yuan, don't worry about your son's injuries. He will definitely recover, Lung Ruoxue comforted. I hope so. Yuan Biao had a headache over this matter. After that, Lung Ruoxue and Yuan Biao chatted aimlessly until it was late. Before Lung Ruoxue left Yuan Biao's study, Yuan Biao said reluctantly, Hee, I'm really sorry. I had too much fun chatting with Miss Ning, and actually forgot the time. Miss Ning must be hungry. I'll immediately get the kitchen to prepare food, and send it to Miss Ning. Please keep reading 0 in MYB0's novel. Thank you, Alliance Master Yuan. I'll take my leave first. Lung Ruoxue stood up and bowed slightly before leaving Yuan Biao's study. After returning to the falling swallow dwelling, Lung Ruoxue saw the freak sitting in the courtyard looking at her with a bitter expression, and the others also looked worried. Why? Are you afraid that it'll be eaten by Yuan Biao? Lung Ruoxue teased with a light smile. Miss, why were you gone for so long? We were all worried to death. Fonda was the first to complain. Because Yuan Biao had only invited Miss alone, they stayed in the falling swallow house. They did not expect their Miss to be gone for so long before returning, so they were on tenterhooks. Yuan Biao kept asking me questions, so I came back late. Lung Ruoxue said embarrassedly. Swear you have to compensate me. The freak said aggrievedly. You want compensation again? Lung Ruoxue said speechlessly. This freak clearly wanted to take advantage of her. However, he actually referred it as wanting compensation every time. Yes, you made me worry. In the future, if you make me worry again, you have to make it up to me. The freak smiled evilly and said with a hint of smugness. He had thought of this method, all right. Sigh. All right then. Lung Ruoxue was very helpless, so she pulled the freak back to her room, and then entered the purple bamboo house in the bracelet to compensate. After Lung Ruoxue and the freak returned to their room, Fonda couldn't help but say with envy, Commander Yi is really too powerful. He can succeed every time. Well, I wonder how he did it. Boo. Why couldn't he do it? Fengde felt very upset at the thought that he could never get the compensation he wanted. Are you very envious? Do you want to learn? Lu Tao narrowed her eyes and said with a faint smile. No, I don't want to. I'm just lamenting, really. I promise. Fengde said shamelessly, and his words immediately attracted several disdainful gazes. I say, Fengde, you're too embarrassing for a man. Chengwu smiled evilly and provoked. There's food to eat if you listen to your woman, Fengde said shamelessly. In any case, this was not the first time he had lost face. Ever since he was teased by them last time, his tolerance had soared. At least you're obedient, Lu Tao said with a smile. Then she pulled Fengde back to her room. Captain isn't going to be abused again, right? Someone couldn't help but say worriedly when he saw Fengde being pulled into the room by Lu Tao again. Please keep reading on MYB0X and 0VL. C0M hehe. Well, no, in a while. Lin Yuan said curiously. However, they waited in the courtyard for a long time. Fengde's wail did not come from the room, which surprised them. It shouldn't be like this. Lin Yuan was very puzzled. Could it be that the captain held back this time? It's getting late. Let's not wait foolishly. We'll find out tomorrow anyway, Chengwu said after thinking for a while. Although he was also curious, he was sleepy. Yes. Everyone nodded and went back to their rooms. The next day, everyone who was waiting to watch the show got up early in unison and gathered in the courtyard, intending to see the results of last night's battle first thing. However, when they saw Fengde come out of the room refreshed and intact, they were all surprised. Fengde, are you all right? Chengwu asked with concern. However, he was more curious. Well, could it be that the injuries this time weren't on his face? I'm doing very well. Fengde smiled in satisfaction. Captain, are you feeling unwell? Lin Yuan couldn't help but ask. No, I feel very good now. Fengde smiled proudly, feeling even more pleased. That shouldn't be. How could this be? Lin Yuan muttered to himself. Rascal, what do you mean? Do you want to die? Fengde couldn't help but scold with a smile. These guys felt uncomfortable if they didn't see him being tortured. Sigh. Their thoughts really made him sad. Nothing, Lin Yuan hurriedly said in fear. Ooh, why did he accidentally say what was on his mind? What do you mean nothing? At this moment, Lung Ruoxue and the freak walked out of the room and asked curiously. Lin Yuan was a little embarrassed and didn't know what to say. He couldn't tell Miss that they wanted to see a good show for the captain. Did you do something bad again? Lung Ruoxue couldn't help but guess. Miss, we don't, Lin Yuan quickly promised. Sigh. Bear with it for the time being. Lung Ruoxue thought for a while and said. She knew the uneasiness in her subordinates' hearts very well, so she didn't want to restrain them too much. Chapter 951. Doubts eliminated 3? Well, miss, breakfast is ready, Songdi interrupted. Okay, let's have breakfast. Lung Ruoxue nodded. After breakfast, Lung Ruoxue brought everyone to see the ape. The ape's residence was called the Waiting Garden. When Lung Ruoxue saw the 2 words written outside the courtyard, she almost laughed out loud in her heart. This name was really vivid and appropriate. Didn't the ape have to live in the monkey garden? After entering the monkey garden, Lung Ruoxue and the others walked into the ape's room unimpeded. No one stopped them along the way. Lung Ruoxue guessed that Yuan Biao had already greeted them, so their entry went so smoothly. In the ape's room, the ape looked at Lung Ruoxue, who was not far away, with a face full of surprise and joy. He was extremely excited in the depths of his heart. In the past few days he had been tortured by his illness, so he did not take the time to see the Miss Ning he liked. However, what he did not expect was that Miss Ning actually took the initiative to see him. Then was Miss Ning interested in him? He could not help but let his imagination run wild. How are young Master Yuan's injuries? Lung Ruoxue asked despite knowing the consultant's concern. It's all right, Miss Ning. I'm really sorry for inviting you to the First Alliance. However, as your master, I can't treat you well. The ape said apologetically. Please keep reading 0 in MYB0's novel. Come I should be the one saying that I'm sorry. In the past few days when we came to the First Alliance, the former Alliance Master has been worried about your illness and didn't have time to see us, so we didn't dare to walk around casually, and could only stay in the Falling Swallow dwelling obediently. Well, young Master Yuan won't blame me for not visiting you, right? Lung Ruoxua asked in embarrassment. No, my father has seen you? The ape heard the meaning in Lung Ruoxia's words and probed. Yes, we just met yesterday and we chatted until very late, so I can come over to see young Master Yuan today. Lung Ruoxua said with a light smile. Did my father promise you? The ape asked nervously. Not yet. He said he wants to discuss it with the elders. After all, Lung Xiaoyu violated the rules of your Ascender Alliance. He can't make the decision alone, Lung Ruoxua said indifferently. Oh, Miss Ning, don't worry. As long as I see my father, I will put in a good word for you. The ape promised, but he couldn't help complaining in his heart. Alas! He knew that his old fox-like father wouldn't agree to this easily. Then he'll thank young Master Yuan first, Lung Ruoxua said politely. Miss Ning is my savior. It's only right for me to do something for you. The ape said awkwardly. Young Master Yuan, I don't want to be a savior. I've said it before, this is fate, Lung Ruoxua said helplessly, but she couldn't help but feel uneasy in her heart. Even though she was the one who asked Fengde and the others to carry the ape back, it was also Fengde and the others who injured this monkey, so the term savior was actually unworthy of her reputation. Miss Ning, you have saved my life. If you hadn't saved me, I'm afraid I would still be lying on the streets. The ape said with self-awareness. He knew that his previous record was not good, so even if he disappeared for 10 days or half a month, his father would not be worried. After all, no one dared to harm him in the territory of the First Alliance. However, he had suffered a huge loss this time. Now, as long as he thought of the people who injured him, he gritted his teeth in hatred. However, those people were missing now, so he had nowhere to vent his anger. Young Master Yuan, don't think too much now. It's more important to treat your injuries as soon as possible. Lung Ruoxua saw the ape's anger and comforted him. Yes, I know. However, if I find the person who injured me, they won't have an easy time. Humph. I won't let them off, the ape said fiercely. Young Master Yuan, even if you want to take revenge, you have to recover from your injuries first. The most taboo thing for patients is to be angry, so you have to endure it. Lung Ruoxua advised very cautiously and muttered to herself, Do you want to find the person who injured me? I'm afraid I won't be able to find him in this lifetime. Yes, I know. The ape nodded obediently. Young Master Yuan, I won't delay your rest anymore. Otherwise, Alliance Master Yuan will blame me. We'll take our leave first. Lung Ruoxua turned around and left the ape's room with the freak and the others. After Lung Ruoxua left, Yuan Ho lay on the bed thoughtfully. After thinking for a long time, he instructed the guards to invite his father over. After Yuan Biao received the report from the guard, he knew why his son was looking for him. After all, he had already heard that Miss Ning had gone to see Hoer in the morning. However, he did not want to go to the waiting garden now. However, he could not resist Yuan Hao's urging and finally, he could only go. Please keep reading on MYB0X and 0VL, C0M in Yuan Hao's room. Yuan Biao looked at his weak son sitting on the bed and said helplessly, Hoer, why are you looking for father so urgently? Father, are you willing to let Miss Ning see Lung Xiaoyu or not? Give me a straightforward answer. The original owner asked bluntly. Hoer, how can you talk to me like that? I'm so anxious about your illness, but you keep thinking about a woman all day long. Sigh, I'm really disappointed. Yuan Biao sighed and complained. Father, I know you dote on me, but Miss Ning is my savior, so I have to help her fulfill her wish, Yuan Ho said stubbornly. He knew that this was the only thing he could do to please Miss Ning. So how could he not work hard? Hoer, I know very well what you're thinking. However, Miss Ning hasn't fallen for you. Aren't you afraid that everything you've done for her will be for naught? Yuan Biao said cunningly. Even though the person he had sent to investigate Miss Ning's identity had yet to return, after seeing Miss Ning's token yesterday, most of his doubts had dissipated. However, he still wanted to fight for more benefits for his son. Father, I understand what you mean. That's why I want to use this matter to please her. Yuan Ho said honestly. It's not appropriate to use this to please her. That Leng Xiaoyu is also a rare and beautiful man. Aren't you afraid that the two of them will fall in love at first sight? Yuan Biao reminded. Chapter 952. Doubts eliminated for she want. Yuan Ho said with confidence that came out of nowhere. You fool. How can you not know that a woman's heart is like a needle at the bottom of the sea? Yuan Biao said with some disappointment. Why didn't this stupid son learn his shrewdness at all? He really didn't know who he took after. The guards by Miss Ning's side are not inferior to Leng Xiaoyu, so she wouldn't like Leng Xiaoyu even if that's the case. Yuan Ho said disapprovingly. Even though Miss Ning had never introduced the people around her to him, he knew that they were all her subordinates. Guards? Are you sure? Yuan Biao asked curiously. He had never seen what Miss Ning's guards were like. Yes. Yuan Ho nodded. Father, you have to help me. Yuan Ho added worriedly. Father knows his limits. You should rest first. Father is leaving, Yuan Biao said. With that, he left the waiting garden. However, he did not return to his study directly. Instead, he went to the falling swallow dwelling because he was a little curious about the guards beside Miss Ning. When Yuan Biao saw the guards beside Leng Ruoxue, he believed in Leng Ruoxue's identity a little more because in his opinion, only top families could nurture such outstanding guards. After he returned to the study, he met the few trusted subordinates he had sent out. In the study, please keep reading 0 in MYB Zero's novel. Calm Yuan Biao looked at his subordinate in front of him and said calmly, how's the investigation going? Alliance Master, we went to the Ning family's divine realm and found out that Miss Ning has not been at home recently. I heard that she went out, a subordinate reported. Oh, what else? Yuan Biao continued. The subordinates looked at each other, but they were speechless. You guys went there for a few days and only found out about this? Seeing that his subordinates were silent, Yuan Biao said gloomily. These subordinates were too useless. Alliance Master, the Ning family's divine realm is heavily guarded. We don't dare to ask too much, another subordinate said with some difficulty. Have you asked around about Miss Ning's appearance and characteristics? Yuan Biao asked, unwilling to give up. Everyone in the Ning family's divine realm says that Miss Ning is a rare beauty. Moreover, I heard that Miss Ning has a token that can prove her identity, the subordinate said, and the others hurriedly echoed. A token? What kind? Yuan Biao pretended not to know. I think it's silver, the subordinate said after a moment. Is something like this? Yuan Biao said and took out a silver token from his ring. That's right, this is it. Alliance Master, why is this token in your hands? I heard that the Ning family only recognizes tokens and not people, the subordinate said. Do you recognize the card but not the person? Yuan Biao said thoughtfully. Now that the card was in his hands, could he use it? Yes. The subordinate nodded. Got it. If there's nothing else to report, you can leave first. Yuan Biao said. Alliance Master, we'll take our leave then. The subordinates bowed and left the study. After his subordinates left, Yuan Biao sat alone in his chair and looked at the sign in his hand with a myriad of thoughts. Please keep reading on MYB 0X and 0VL. C0M the next day. Yuan Biao came to the falling swallow dwelling again. This time he brought good news to Leng Ruoxue and the others. He said that he had already discussed with the elders and could let her see Leng Xiaoyu. President Yuan, thank you so much, Leng Ruoxue said happily after hearing Yuan Biao's words. Miss Ning, you don't have to be polite. You're my son's savior. As long as I can do it, I definitely won't disappoint Miss Ning. Yuan Biao said indifferently. However, that Leng Xiaoyu has a strange temper. Sometimes he won't even listen to me. Therefore, I really can't guarantee if he's willing to refine weapons for you. Miss Ning is from an aristocratic family. She will definitely know that those blacksmiths and alchemists are not easy to serve. Yuan Biao added helplessly and did not say it too confidently. Yes, I know that. The Alliance Master Yuan doesn't have to worry. As long as I see Lord Leng Xiaoyu, I naturally have a way to convince him, Lung Ruoxue said confidently. Then I'm relieved. Miss Ning, if it's convenient, I can bring you to see Lung Xiaoyu now, Yuan Biao said very proactively. Okay. Lung Ruoxue nodded calmly. She had been waiting for this sentence. Then please follow me, Yuan Biao said. Lung Ruoxue and the freak followed Yuan Biao through a few turns and finally arrived outside a sealed room. The room was underground and should belong to the secret chamber of the First Alliance. He didn't expect his ancestor to be locked up here. No wonder Qingju couldn't find him. There was a defensive array outside the secret room that could stop anyone from investigating. Yuan Biao quickly formed a few hand seals with both hands. Not long after, the array formation disappeared. Miss Ning, please follow me in, Yuan Biao said and opened the door of the secret room. Okay. Lung Ruoxue looked at the freak and followed Yuan Biao in. Chapter 953. Rescued. 1. After entering the secret room, Lung Ruoxue realized that it was bigger than she imagined. However, the decorations inside were very simple. Other than a bed, there was only a table and a chair. A man in black was sitting on a chair and reading a book. Even though the man's back was facing them, Lung Ruoxue knew that it was undoubtedly her ancestor. Lung Xiaoyu, I brought Miss Ning to see you, Yuan Biao said calmly. I don't know any Miss Ning, the man with his back facing them said coldly without even turning his head. Lung Xiaoyu, don't be too arrogant. You're a prisoner now. Yuan Biao roared angrily. It was just that Lung Xiaoyu's indifferent look made him very annoyed. So what if he's a prisoner? The man smiled indifferently. In any case, he knew that Yuan Biao wouldn't kill him, so he wasn't worried about angering Yuan Biao at all. I brought Miss Ning here to let you refine weapons for her. You have to perform well. Miss Ning's status is not ordinary. Yuan Biao held back his anger and reminded her. In the God realm, other than the divine masters, no one dared to not give the Ning family face. Therefore, he hoped that Lung Xiaoyu would know her place. One had to know that even if the status of a blacksmith was high, not everyone could provoke him. I'm just a prisoner. I'm not in the mood to refine weapons. So no matter what Miss Ning or Miss Zhu, please go back. Lung Xiaoyu said disapprovingly. After locking him here, he actually wanted him to curry favor with the Ning family for his alliance master Yuan. No way. Miss Ning thinks highly of you for letting you refine weapons for her. Don't be ungrateful. Yuan Biao was so angry that his chest trembled as he threatened. I don't need anyone to think highly of me, Lung Xiaoyu said without giving him any face. Please keep reading 0 novel. Calm Alliance Master Yuan, can you let me talk to Lord Lung Xiaoyu? Lung Ruoxue asked with a light smile. Hehe. The ancestor's ability to anger people to death was not small. Looking at Yuan Biao's trembling body from anger, she wanted to laugh. Therefore, she only asked after watching enough. Yuan Biao hesitated. To be honest, he was really a little worried if he let them be alone together. However, if he listened to their conversation from the side, it would seem that he was not very honest. Therefore, he was conflicted. Lung Xiaoyu was even more shocked when she heard this voice. Why did this Miss Ning's voice sound so similar to little Shuer? No. Impossible. She must be hallucinating. How could that girl find this place? However, with doubts in his heart, he still turned around curiously. When he saw the familiar figure standing not far away, he rubbed his eyes in disbelief. Oh. It was still there, but how did little Shuer become Miss Ning? Yuan Biao didn't think so when he looked at Lung Ruoxue attentively. Yuan Biao was a little angry as he looked at Lung Xiaoyu staring at Miss Ning like a love-struck fool. He couldn't help but grumble in his heart. He didn't expect Lung Xiaoyu to be immortal. She didn't even blink when she saw a beautiful woman. He originally thought that the extremely cold Lung Xiaoyu wouldn't be charmed by beauty. It seemed that he had overestimated her. You are Miss Ning? Lung Xiaoyu asked in confusion. Yes, Lord Lung Xiaoyu, I've heard a lot about you. I wonder if you can refine weapons for me? We can negotiate on the price. Lung Ruoxue said softly and secretly gave Lung Xiaoyu a look. I wonder what price Miss Ning can offer, Lung Xiaoyu asked calmly. as if he was very greedy. He understood immediately when he saw the secret code little Schwer gave him. Sigh. It seemed that this girl had specially used a fake name to find him. Lord Lung Xiaoyu, name your price. I guarantee that you will be satisfied. Lung Ruoxue said with a faint smile. Name my price? Can Miss Ning accept any price? Lung Xiaoyu asked with a light smile. Of course. Lung Ruoxue nodded and said with certainty. What if I want Miss Ning to marry me? Lung Xiaoyu said seriously with a faint smile on her face. Lung Xiaoyu, how dare you? Who do you think Miss Ning is? Before Lung Ruoxue could answer Lung Xiaoyu, Yuan Biao jumped out and roared. That damned Lung Xiaoyu actually dared to have designs on Miss Ning. He was really tired of living. In his heart, Miss Ning was reserved for his son. However, he also knew that his son was simply incomparable to Lung Xiaoyu. As long as one was not a fool, anyone would choose Lung Xiaoyu. Therefore, he was very worried that Miss Ning would be abducted by Lung Xiaoyu. Alliance Master Yuan, Miss Ning and I are discussing business. Isn't it too rude for you to interrupt? Lung Xiaoyu asked back without anger. There was still a beautiful smile on his handsome face. Humph. If I hadn't brought Miss Ning over, would you have this business deal? Therefore, you'd better consider your identity and not ask for too much. Don't you think you're worthy of Miss Ning? Yuan Biao said very disdainfully. Please keep reading on MYB0XN0VL. C0M. How am I not worthy of Miss Ning? I'm one of the best blacksmiths in the Divine Continent. I also have a master who is the vice president of the Artificer Association headquarters. Why do you think I'm not worthy of Miss Ning? Lung Xiaoyu asked in confusion. If I say you're not worthy, you're not worthy. There's no other reason. Yuan Biao said angrily. In fact, if Lung Xiaoyu hadn't said that, he might not have been so angry. However, he was very angry now. Moreover, it was because of that stubborn old man that he had captured Lung Xiaoyu. They had thought that with Lung Xiaoyu, their proud disciple, in their hands, that old man would definitely commit a crime. However, who knew that they had miscalculated? That old man did not care about Lung Xiaoyu's life at all. Therefore, they had captured him for nothing. Now they were even more unable to back down. They could not lock him up, nor could they let him go. Sigh. Has Alliance Master Yuan turned from embarrassment to anger? Lung Xiaoyu smiled happily. Even though he had been locked up here for a period of time, angering the Alliance Master Yuan had already become one of his current joys. Therefore, how could he let go of this opportunity? Chapter 954, Rescued 2, Humph. Lung Xiaoyu. You'll regret it later. Yuan Biao roared at the top of his lungs. Is that so? I've been waiting for this day for a long time. However, I don't think you'll be able to see it. However, you can definitely see your regret. Lung Xiaoyu said happily. Besides, you're not Miss Ning's father. Can you control Miss Ning's marriage? Lung Xiaoyu added, her face full of curiosity. You. Damn you, Lung Xiaoyu. You're my prisoner now. Yet you still dare to speak to me like this. I think you really don't want to live anymore. Yuan Biao was so angry that he didn't know what to say. He held it in for a long time before thinking of using a prisoner to threaten her. Unfortunately, she didn't care at all. Lung Ruoxue and the freak stood at the side and looked at these two men, who were both quite old, actually acting like children. They quarreled and cold sweat trickled down their foreheads, because none of them had seen Lung Xiaoyu like this. It could be said that Lung Xiaoyu had always been very serious. Alliance Master Yuan Lord Lung Xiaoyu. What are you arguing about? Lung Ruoxue pretended to be puzzled. As soon as Lung Ruoxue said this, the two people who were arguing were slightly stunned. However, Lung Xiaoyu naturally pretended to be angry, and Yuan Biao, who was already red with anger, realized that he seemed to be even angrier. Why did they quarrel for so long? Couldn't Miss Ning tell what they were arguing about? Yuan Biao was really angry and annoyed, but he couldn't flare up at Lung Ruoxue, so he could only focus all his firepower on Lung Xiaoyu. Miss Ning, of course we're arguing because of you. Alliance Master Yuan said that I'm not worthy of you. Lung Xiaoyu said calmly, his handsome face seemingly aggrieved. Lord Lung Xiaoyu, I'm afraid I can't make the decision to marry you. After all, my father has to decide on my marriage, but with your status and my father's love for you, he will definitely agree. However, you have to refine what I want first so that my father knows your sincerity. Lung Ruoxue said very cautiously. Please keep reading Zero in MYB Zero's novel. Calm. When Yuan Biao heard Lung Ruoxue's words, he secretly cheered and praised from the bottom of his heart. As expected of the daughter nurtured by the Ning family, she was indeed scheming. When Lung Xiaoyu refined the equipment Miss Ning needed, wouldn't she let her do whatever she wanted? After thinking about it for a long time, he felt much better. He couldn't help but look at Lung Xiaoyu gloatingly. Miss Ning, if I refine what you want first, won't I suffer a huge loss if you don't admit it? Lung Xiaoyu looked at Yuan Biao provocatively and said indifferently, Lord Lung Xiaoyu, you should believe in the credibility of our Ning family, Lung Ruoxue reminded. Credibility has always been a lie, Lung Xiaoyu said in disbelief. Miss Ning, since this Lung Xiaoyu doesn't know what's good for him, I think we don't have to beg him anymore. Let's go. Yuan Biao interrupted again and urged. If he stayed any longer, he would definitely be angered to death. Therefore, unless necessary, he would never come here. Lord Lung Xiaoyu, I'm very sincere. You have to believe me. Lung Ruoxue didn't respond to Yuan Biao's words, but said very sincerely, unless you promise me first. Lung Xiaoyu refused to let go. The words no discussion were written on her face. Miss Ning, it seems that this fellow is stubborn. Let's not waste our breath on him. Yuan Biao hurriedly said. Sigh. All right. Alliance Master Yuan, let's leave for the time being. Lord Lung Xiaoyu, I hope you can consider my suggestion carefully. I'm very sincere. Lung Ruoxue pretended to be unwilling to give up. There's no need to consider it. If you want me to refine weapons for you, that's the only price I'll offer, Lung Xiaoyu said stubbornly. Sigh. It seems that we can't reach an agreement today. Alliance Master Yuan, let's leave first. Lung Ruoxue said helplessly. Okay. Yuan Biao was happy to hear that Lung Ruoxue was willing to leave. Then, the three of them left the secret room together. After leaving the secret room, on the way back, Lung Ruoxue said gratefully, Alliance Master Yuan, sorry to trouble you today. Miss Ning, you don't have to be so polite. I couldn't help much with this matter. I'm really ashamed. Yuan Biao said in embarrassment. How can you blame Alliance Master Yuan for this? It's obvious that Lung Xiaoyu doesn't know what's good for him. Lung Ruoxue pretended to be angry and even called Lung Xiaoyu directly. Yes, that's right. That Lung Xiaoyu is an arrogant fellow. His eyes have always been on top of his head. Yuan Biao echoed. Even though he really wanted to mock Lung Xiaoyu, he still held back in order not to ruin his image in Lung Ruoxue's eyes. Please keep reading on MYB0XN0VL. C0M. In fact, he was overthinking because he had no image in Lung Ruoxue's heart. Alliance Master Yuan, I won't give up so easily. However, I want to leave him hanging for a few days before going to talk to him about this matter, so I'm afraid I'll have to trouble Alliance Master Yuan. Lung Ruoxue said embarrassedly. Miss Ning, do you still want to look for him to refine weapons? Our Ascender Alliance has many good blacksmiths. Why don't you change to another one? Yuan Biao suggested. For the sake of his son, he really didn't want Miss Ning to meet that pervert Lung Xiaoyu. Now whenever he thought of Lung Xiaoyu looking at Miss Ning like a love-struck fool, he couldn't help but feel angry. My father only likes the equipment refined by Lung Xiaoyu. Otherwise I wouldn't have to beg him so humbly. Lung Ruoxue said helplessly. She even sighed softly and said, I'll have to trouble Alliance Master Yuan then. It's not troublesome. I'm just afraid that Lung Xiaoyu will offend Miss Ning with her words. Yuan Biao deliberately pretended to be worried. It's okay, I'm mentally prepared, Lung Ruoxue said confidently. In that case, Miss Ning, you just have to send someone to tell me when you want to go. Yuan Biao thought for a moment and said, All right, Alliance Master Yuan. Well, return to the Falling Swallow dwelling first. Lung Ruoxue nodded, and returned to the Falling Swallow dwelling with the freak. Chapter 955, Rescued 3, in the courtyard of the falling swallow dwelling. Fengde and the others were as anxious as ants on a hot pan. They kept walking around. At the same time, they were a little worried. Miss had been gone for so long. Why hadn't she returned? Could it be that she had been exposed? However, when they saw Lung Ruoxue and the freak appear in the courtyard, they finally relaxed. Miss, you're back. When Fengde and the others saw the two of them, they hurriedly surrounded them. Miss, why were you gone for so long? We were so worried. Lu Tao complained softly. Hee, what's there to worry about? Would Yuan Biao eat me? Lung Ruoxue teased with some amusement. Miss, how is it? Have you seen Lung Xiaoyu? Cheng Wu asked softly. Okay. Lung Ruoxue nodded and didn't elaborate. Moreover, after chatting with them briefly, Lung Ruoxue and the freak entered the bracelet together. In the bracelet, when Lung Qianye saw Lung Ruoxue and the freak, he immediately walked forward and said, Little Schwer, you must think of a way to save Grandpa. Otherwise, I'm afraid Yuan Biao will harm him. Please keep reading 0NMYB0's novel. Yes, don't worry. We've already confirmed his location. We'll take action late at night. I'll go and study the technique Yuan Biao used first. Lung Ruoxue directly entered the cultivation room in the purple bamboo house after saying that. In the cultivation room, Lung Ruoxue sat on a meditation cushion and looked at the technique Yuan Biao used, memorizing it in her heart. Previously, when Yuan Biao used this cultivation technique to activate the array formation, she had asked Qingju to record this cultivation technique so that she could use it when she saved her cheap ancestor. After memorizing the cultivation technique, Lung Ruoxue began to experiment on her own. Her hands kept dancing in the air as she formed several cultivation techniques. After skillfully operating it a few times, she found Qingju and asked curiously, Qingju, do you think my technique is similar to Yuan Biao's? Sister, the cultivation technique you used is even better than the one Yuan Biao used. However, there's no array formation that can allow you to truly practice it now. Qingju said with some regret. Even though he wanted his sister to set up a defensive array formation like that to practice, the array formation set up by his sister might not be suitable for this cultivation technique. After all, even though it looked the same on the surface, the person who set up the array formation would usually add something that belonged to him. Therefore, it was difficult for outsiders to set up the exact same array formation. I'm confident after hearing Qingju's words, Lung Ruoxue said with relief. Her goal was to familiarize herself with this technique. As for practicing it, she really didn't care too much. Sister, will we leave this place immediately after saving the old ancestor? Qingju asked curiously. No, after saving the cheap sake old ancestor, we still have to stay here for a few days to avoid arousing Yuan Biao's suspicion. Lung Ruoxue said after some thought. Yes, Qingju nodded in agreement. That was exactly what he meant. Qingju will go out first. Lung Ruoxue left the cultivation room in a flash. At night, in the dead of the night, Lung Ruoxue asked Yao to cast an invisibility spell on her and the freak before leaving the falling swallow residence together. Lung Ruoxue and the freak walked along the path they had walked during the day and arrived at the entrance of the underground secret room. The freak nodded at Lung Ruoxue, indicating that they could begin. Lung Ruoxue understood. Then, she stretched out her slender hand and cast several spells that she had long memorized. A moment later, the array formation on the secret room disappeared. Lung Ruoxue and the freak walked straight in. Please keep reading on MYB0XN0VL. C0M. After entering the secret room, Lung Ruoxue asked Dazzle to remove their invisibility, and the two of them appeared in front of Lung Xiaoyu. At this moment, Lung Xiaoyu was sitting on a chair in deep thought. However, when he saw Lung Ruoxue and the freak suddenly appear in front of him, his eyes couldn't help but widen in surprise. He thought to himself, did Little Schwer and the freak turn invisible just now? Could it be that they have a divine artifact that can turn invisible? Shoo. Lung Ruoxue gestured for her to keep quiet, and Lung Xiaoyu could only temporarily put away her doubts and curiosity. At the same time, Lung Ruoxue thought of something and brought Lung Xiaoyu into the bracelet. Where is this? Lung Xiaoyu looked at the place that had changed in surprise, his handsome face full of question marks. Grandpa. Suddenly, Lung Qianye threw himself into Lung Xiaoyu's arms and cried loudly. Lung Qianye, what triggered you? Why are you crying? Lung Xiaoyu couldn't take it anymore. Well, ever since Qianye became sensible, he hadn't done such a thing for a long time. Therefore, he couldn't help but wonder if Lung Qianye had been replaced. Grandpa, when did I cry? When Lung Qianye heard this, he was so frightened that he hurriedly jumped out of Lung Xiaoyu's arms. There seemed to be something wrong with him. He actually threw himself into his grandfather's arms. He was already so old. How could he still do such a childish thing? Could it be that he had been led astray by little Shuer? He couldn't help but think to himself. However, if Lung Ruoxue knew that Lung Qianye blamed his abnormality on her, she would definitely not let him off. Brat, you haven't told me where we are yet. Lung Xiaoyu pretended to be unhappy and reminded him after looking around. This is Shuer's territory, Lung Qianye said simply. Then he didn't continue. Nothing else. Lung Xiaoyu asked with widened eyes. No. Lung Qianye had an innocent expression on his face. He even blinked his pitch-black eyes adorably and stared at his grandfather. Brat, are you looking for a beating? Lung Xiaoyu said angrily, especially when he saw that Lung Qianye had actually learned how to act cute. The anger in his heart surged. All right. Brat, did you learn how to act pitiful? Grandpa, are you going to hit me? Lung Qianye asked pitifully with tears in his eyes. In fact, every time he saw that demon like this, Shuer would agree to everything he asked for. That was why he wanted to give it a try. Unfortunately, the test subject he found was his grandfather. If he was a girl, Lung Xiaoyu might have doted on him a little. However, he was a very independent man since he was young. Lung Xiaoyu could not help but feel a little uncomfortable. Chapter 956, Rescued for. Yes. Brat. Who asked you to pretend to be pitiful? After saying that, Lung Xiaoyu chased after Lung Qianye and started fighting. Grandpa, you're so ruthless. I'm your biological grandson. Your biological grandson. Lung Qianye kept muttering as he ran and dodged, his expression abnormally aggrieved. If you hit him, Lung Xiaoyu roared. If he wanted to hit someone else's grandson, what could they do? Therefore, if he wanted to hit someone, he had to hit his own. Little Shuer, help! Grandpa is going to hit me. Lung Qianye begged for help. However, the person he was calling for help had long left the bracelet and was already on the way back to the falling swallow dwelling. Lung Ruoxue and the freak hid themselves and swaggered around the headquarters of the First Alliance. When she heard Lung Qianye's cry for help from the depths of her mind, a gorgeous smile hung on her beautiful face. Shuer, what's wrong? Seeing the smile on Shuer's face, the freak asked in confusion. Hee. Lung Qianye was beaten up by the cheap sake old ancestor for acting cute. Lung Ruoxue said with a wicked smile. Serves him right. Who asked him to want to learn from me? The freak said without any sympathy. That fellow had always pretended to be pitiful and did not have a good impression of him. To put it bluntly, it was Lung Qianye's jealousy that was playing tricks. Now he finally got his retribution. Yes, he has to find the right person even if he wants to act cute. Acting cute to his cheap ancestor is asking for a beating. Lung Ruoxue nodded in agreement. Just like that, the two of them chatted as they walked and soon returned to the falling swallow dwelling. Please keep reading 0 in MYB0's novel. Calm in the falling swallow dwelling, Fengde and the others were not asleep. At this moment, they were all waiting for them in Lung Ruoxue and the freak's room. After seeing Lung Ruoxue and the freak appear, everyone watched eagerly, but no one spoke first. Why aren't you guys asleep yet? Didn't I say that we don't have to wait? Lung Ruoxue said speechlessly. Miss, I don't know how we can fall asleep in the end, Fengde said aggrievedly. They originally wanted to listen to Miss, but they couldn't fall asleep in bed no matter what. Therefore, everyone gathered here in unison. Don't worry, we've already saved her. She's in the space. You can go to sleep now. Lung Ruoxue said bluntly and urged. Miss, let us enter the space and greet that ancestor. Fengde requested. It's too late now. Tomorrow. Lung Ruoxue said after some thought. Miss, we can't sleep now, Fengde said in embarrassment. Actually, compared to sleeping, they were more curious about why Miss Ancestor was imprisoned by Yuan Biao. All right then. Lung Ruoxue was very helpless. Then, she brought them into the bracelet. After entering the bracelet, everyone saw Lung Qianye's extremely sorry state. They wanted to laugh but didn't dare to. They wanted to ask but didn't dare to. Therefore, all of their faces turned red. Swear, why did you let them in? Lung Qianye complained tearfully. It was over. The image he had painstakingly built in front of everyone was completely ruined. He had lost all his face. They all want to greet their cheap ancestor. Otherwise, they won't be able to sleep. Lung Ruoxue suppressed her laughter and explained. Oh, then I'll go back to my room first. After Lung Qianye finished speaking, he directly entered his bamboo house and refused to come out to see anyone. Hello, old ancestor. Fengde and the others immediately greeted Lung Xiaoyu. When they saw Lung Qianye fleeing, they suppressed their laughter, lest their grandfather beat them up in anger. Little fellows, you all look pretty good, Lung Xiaoyu said with some relief. In the past few days after being locked up, he had been worried about these little fellows who had just arrived in the God's continent. Now that he saw that they were all safe and sound, and that little Schwer had escaped from the Yuan family, he was relieved. However, he was a little upset that he could not help at all, and was even saved by these little fellows. Sigh. He was really too useless. Yes, it's fine. Everyone nodded. Please keep reading on MYB0XN0VL. C0M Little Schwer, you're really blessed. You can actually have such an opportunity. Lung Xiaoyu said emotionally as he looked at the space with dense spiritual energy. He had just heard about the situation here from Qianyi and knew the little butler, Qingju. Moreover, this space was definitely a good place to cultivate. My luck is indeed very good, but I want to hear more about why I was locked up by Yuan Biao. Lung Ruoxue asked calmly. It's because of my master. Lung Xiaoyu sighed and said helplessly. Chapter 957. The Little Peacock Being Teased 1. Why do you say that? Lung Ruoxue asked in confusion. The God Realm will hold an artifact refinement competition every 100 years, and this year happens to be the time of the competition. Therefore, the various large factions pay special attention to it. The rewards for this championship are also very generous. Many of them are very rare refining materials. Even I am very tempted. However, there's an age limit for participating, so even if I want to participate, I can't. Sigh. Lung Xiaoyu said regretfully. Then what does this have to do with your master? Lung Ruoxue didn't understand. Little Schwer, my master is the vice president of the Blacksmith Association headquarters. And he's also in charge of this competition. It's said that there's a genius blacksmith in the Ascender Alliance, so the Ascender Alliance very much hopes that the champion this time can come from their side. However, there's always someone better. They don't want any accidents to happen, so they captured me to threaten my master, Lung Xiaoyu explained. And then? Lung Ruoxue knew the general reason, and asked again. My master has always been stubborn and upright. Naturally, he wouldn't be threatened by them. So I was locked up by Yuan Biao. Lung Xiaoyu said helplessly. TSK, what kind of master is this? He didn't even save his disciple when he was captured, Fengde said disdainfully. Hehe. You've misunderstood my master. It's not that my master doesn't want to save me. He's just unwilling to be threatened. However, he has already made a statement to the Ascenders. If the Ascender Alliance dares to make me lose a strand of hair, he will definitely make them disappear from the God Realm. Therefore, Yuan Biao doesn't dare to kill me at all, Lung Xiaoyu said confidently. He never doubted his master's influence. After all, his master was one of the only 2 weapon gods in the God Realm, and was also a divine emperor. Therefore, he really had to consider if he had the right to provoke his master. Oh, Fengde nodded in understanding. Please keep reading 0 in MYB0's novel. Come, I say, little girl's ancestor, are all the competitions in the God Realm calculated in centuries? The disheveled old man asked curiously. Hundreds of years. To the people of the lower realm, They were already considered old men and old women. Therefore, it was really difficult for him to imagine a group of old men and old women participating in the blacksmith competition. More or less, 100 years is just a snap of the fingers for people in the god realm. People your age can only be considered babies here, Lung Xiaoyu said with a happy smile. It's really too scary. I can't imagine a group of old men and women trembling as they participate in the competition. The disheveled old man said speechlessly, and said what was on his mind. His words also caused Lung Ruoxue and the others to laugh. Haha, your imagination is really rich. Feng De laughed until tears came out. Hee, in the god realm, even old men and old women are very young. When you completely transform your bodies into energy bodies, you will have a chance to reconstruct your bodies. Therefore, at that time, everyone can maintain their state at your most perfect state. Lung Xiaoyu chuckled. Really? The disheveled old man's face was filled with surprise. He really didn't expect that there was such a benefit to energy conversion. Back then, because his cultivation speed was relatively slow, he was already an old man when he advanced to the spiritual supremacy realm. Only by advancing to the spiritual supremacy realm would his appearance not change again. Therefore, he could only maintain his appearance as a disheveled old man. However, if he could become younger, who wouldn't want to? Yes, if we want to become gods, we have to first transform our bodies into energy bodies. Otherwise, our human bodies won't be able to withstand the violent spiritual energy of the god realm. Otherwise, why do you think we live in the divine continent? Lung Xiaoyu said with a smile. Why? The disheveled old man asked shamelessly. You idiot, didn't the little girl's ancestor say that the human body can't withstand the violent spiritual energy of the god realm? What are you listening to? The old man knocked the old man's head and roared angrily. Isn't this the god realm? I don't feel any violent spiritual energy here. The disheveled old man looked confused. Even though this place belongs to the god realm, it can only be considered a part of the god realm. Moreover, it's said that the divine continent is a continent purified by the divine masters with a great divine power. It's specially for us, the natives who haven't completely transformed or were born in the god realm, to live in. Therefore, our bodies can withstand the spiritual energy here. Lung Xiaoyu said patiently. What will happen if we go to the god realm now? The disheveled old man was very curious. We can't go. There's a barrier between the divine continent and the god realm. Only high-level gods can pass through there. Therefore, we can only live here for now, Lung Xiaoyu said. That doesn't seem fair, does it? Why can we only live in the divine continent while the people of the divine continent can come and go as they please? If we accidentally provoke the people of the divine continent, won't we have no way out? The disheveled old man said worriedly. Don't worry. If a god from the divine continent gets into a conflict with someone on the god's continent, he can only unleash the strength of an advanced god at most. Therefore, our safety is still guaranteed, Lung Xiaoyu comforted. However, it's best not to cause trouble in the divine continent. Otherwise, if we encounter an ultimate god, even if we don't die from his pressure, we'll probably be left with half a life, Lung Xiaoyu reminded. He had been in the divine continent for many years, and had a master as a weapon god as his backer. He was unwilling to provoke others easily, let alone rookies like them who had just entered the god realm. Please keep reading on MYB0XN0VL. C0M, of course we don't want to cause trouble, but we're afraid that something will provoke us, Feng De muttered softly. What did you say? Lung Xiaoyu asked in confusion. Nothing. Feng De shook his head repeatedly. Old ancestor, how old is the age limit for the blacksmith competition? Lung Ruoxue changed the topic and asked. As long as one is below 500 years old, and is an artificer master, they can participate. Lung Xiaoyu chuckled. Below 500 years old? Oh my god! The disheveled old man was speechless. He really didn't know what to say about the request of the Artificer Association. However, if he only became a revered artificer refinement master at 500 years old, that person's aptitude probably wasn't much. Chapter 958. The Little Peacock Being Teased 2. 500 is very young. Lung Xiaoyu said helplessly. But he only became a revered artificer refinement master at 500 years old. His aptitude is too poor. The disheveled old man couldn't help but say. In the God realm, it's much harder to become a revered artificer refinement master than in the lower realm. There are fewer artifact refinement masters in the lower realm and more resources. Therefore, it's relatively easier for a certain family to nurture an artifact refinement master. However, the God realm is different. In the God realm, there are more alchemists and artifact refinement masters than in the lower realm. The consequence of this is that the competition for resources is very intense. Other than some relatively large forces, some small families can't afford to nurture an artifact refinement master or alchemist. Therefore, in the God realm, it's very difficult for artifact refinement masters and alchemists to advance. Lung Xiaoyu sighed helplessly. How are those artificers and alchemists going to live? The disheveled old man said gloomily. The combat power of blacksmiths and alchemists was inferior to others to begin with, so they naturally couldn't compete with others for the good resources. Sigh. In that case, wouldn't there be no way for blacksmiths and alchemists to survive in the God realm? Basically, artifact masters and alchemists will rely on some powerful forces. This way, we can benefit from each other. However, joining a powerful force is equivalent to losing your freedom. Lung Xiaoyu said helplessly. Alas! If there was a way, who would be willing to be controlled by others? Oh, then can I participate in the artifact refinement competition? The disheveled old man asked curiously. Have you gone to the Artificer Association to verify it? Lung Xiaoyu asked. Even though he had already sensed the rich fire attribute divine power on this old man, he really did not expect this inconspicuous old man to be an artificer. I was certified when I was in the Lingfeng continent. Does this count? The disheveled old man couldn't help but ask. He had been the president of the Artificer Association when he was in the Lingfeng continent. No, regardless of whether you're a native or an ascender, if you want to participate in the competition, you have to go to the Artificer Association to be certified. Otherwise, the Artificer Association won't acknowledge your identity, so you naturally won't be able to participate in the competition. Lung Xiaoyu explained. Oh, girl, I want to participate in the competition. The disheveled old man looked at Lung Ruoxue and asked pitifully. Please keep reading Zero in MYB Zero's novel. Calm, then let's participate. Lung Ruoxue agreed. Didn't they capture the cheap sake old ancestor for this competition champion? In that case, they would win this championship and let the Ascender Alliance cry. Yes. Don't worry, I'll do my best, the disheveled old man promised. We can't just do our best. We have to win the championship. Lung Ruoxue said with a wicked smile. Girl, the opponent's strength is unknown. I really can't guarantee this championship. However, if you participate, the championship definitely won't be able to escape, the disheveled old man suggested. That's right, little Schwer. If you participate, the championship will definitely be yours, Lung Xiaoyu said confidently. Back then, he was accepted as a disciple by his master because he had won the championship in the blacksmith competition. I'm not interested, nor do I want to be in the limelight. After all, I'm still a fugitive of the Yuan family. Lung Ruoxue teased herself. Girl, you can disguise yourself and participate. The disheveled old man exposed Lung Ruoxue's excuse. In fact, he knew that this girl was too lazy. Forget it. If little Schwer doesn't want to participate, don't force her, Lung Xiaoyu said helplessly. In fact, he really wanted little Schwer to participate. After all, with this girl's talent, it would be a waste if she didn't participate in the blacksmith competition. Girl, don't blame me if I don't win the championship, the disheveled old man reminded her carefully. I believe you can definitely win the championship, Lung Ruoxue said confidently. Girl, I really don't have much confidence, the disheveled old man said with an aggrieved expression. It's okay. From today onwards, I'll give you special training. I've participated in this competition before, so I'll train you well for the competition, Lung Xiaoyu said with a smile. In fact, Not only did Schwer want this old man to win the championship, he also wanted to. He who asked Yuan Biao to dare to imprison him. He had also said that he would let Yuan Biao see that he regretted it. Yes, with the cheap ancestor training you, your chances of winning will be greater. Leng Ruoxue nodded. To be honest, she really didn't expect Yuan Biao to imprison the cheap ancestor because of such a small matter. It was really ridiculous. Before leaving, she had to give Yuan Biao a big gift. Thinking of this, Leng Ruoxue couldn't help but ask, Cheap sake old ancestor, I heard that Yuan Biao invited you to refine weapons. Why is it related to the competition? Refining weapons? That's just an excuse he made because he was afraid that the news would be leaked, Leng Xiaoyu said with a face full of disdain. When Yuan Biao found him back then, he had indeed used the excuse of refining weapons. Moreover, he had promised to help him find Sun Tao's whereabouts. That was why he had foolishly fallen into Yuan Biao's trap. Now that he thought about it, he was really stupid. However, this was probably what people often said about being worried. Oh, Leng Ruoxue understood. Alright, it's getting late. We've understood enough. Everyone rest early, Leng Ruoxue said again. Please keep reading on MYB0X and 0VL. C0M. Everyone nodded and returned to their bamboo houses in the space. 3 days later, Leng Ruoxue was sunbathing on a recliner in the courtyard when the original owner suddenly ran over. Miss Ning. The ape's face was filled with excitement when it saw Leng Ruoxue. Young Master Yuan, has your body recovered? Leng Ruoxue pretended to be curious. Well, calculating the time, the medicinal effect should be about right. Yes, it hasn't acted up for 2 days. Looks like the alchemists of the Alchemist Association are still the best. The ape said happily. After resting in bed for 2 days, he felt that he should be fine. Therefore, he ran to the falling swallow dwelling immediately. He had not seen Miss Ning for a few days and was thinking about her. Yes, that's for sure. Otherwise, why would the Alchemist Association provide for them? Leng Ruoxue echoed with a light smile. The Alchemist Association would also provide for some alchemists, but their requirements for providing for alchemists were very high. After all, if the Alchemist Association wanted fame and fortune, it couldn't do without the pills refined by alchemists. However, the recovery of this ape's injuries had nothing to do with those alchemists at all. Chapter 959. The Little Peacock Being Teased 3. Miss Ning, I heard from father that you haven't been in a good mood these past few days? Yuan Ho knew very well that his father had told him everything that had happened on the day he went to the secret room. Damn Leng Xiaoyu, how dare he make a dig at him? He couldn't help but think hatefully. Yes, I've been thinking about how to convince Leng Xiaoyu. I can't agree to his request. You know, I can't marry him. At least, I can't make the decision myself. A trace of sadness appeared on Leng Ruoxue's beautiful face, making the ape's heart ache. Miss Ning, that Leng Xiaoyu really doesn't know what's good for her. You don't have to be angry over that kind of person, the ape said indignantly. Yes, I won't be angry, but I have to think of a good solution. Sigh. Who asked my father to like the equipment he refined the most? Leng Ruoxue said helplessly. By the way, why is young Master Yuan looking for me? Leng Ruoxue suddenly thought of something and asked. I know that Miss Ning is not in a good mood, so I wanted to look for you to take a walk on the streets, the ape said in embarrassment, his face slightly red. Is there anything better on this street? Leng Ruoxue asked in confusion. I'm just going out to relax, said, but he was thinking about which places in the city he could go for a stroll. Hehe. As long as he thought about going shopping alone with Miss Ning, he would be excited. Alright, then let's go out and relax. Leng Ruoxue said cooperatively. On the street, Ape walked in front with a dark expression. His heart was bleeding. Ooh, what was going on? He had really become a guide. Moreover, he had originally thought that he could go shopping alone with Miss Ning. Who knew that there would be so many light bulbs following him? Please keep reading 0 in MYB0's novel. Calm Leng Ruoxue, the freak, and the others walked side by side. Looking at the unlucky fellow who was bullied by the freak and the others, they couldn't help but snicker in their hearts. Hehe. If this ape explained while walking, he would really become a tour guide. Lung Ruoxue could imagine how depressed Yuan Ho was, so she was in a good mood. Miss Ning, there's really nothing much on the streets. Why don't we go back? After walking for a while, Yuan Ho couldn't help but suggest. Young Master Yuan, we just came out. Why are you going back so soon? You can't play with our miss like this. Feng De glared and roared when he heard Yuan Hao's words. I didn't. I really didn't. Miss Ning, you have to believe me. Yuan Ho was so aggrieved that he was about to cry. He had always been a tyrant, but in front of these people, he was not even a grandson. Sigh. How could this be? However, he selfishly attributed this to love. I believe you, but we just came out. If we go back now, wouldn't we have made a wasted trip? Lung Ruoxue didn't want to go back so quickly. But there's really nothing to turn around on this street, the ape said reluctantly. He really wanted to go back. In all his life, he had never been so humiliated. Feeling the strange stares of the people on the street, he wanted to dig a hole and hide in it. Really? Let me look. Feng De took out a map and searched it. Seeing that Feng De actually took out the map, the corners of Yuan Hao's mouth couldn't help but twitch. These people were too well prepared. They actually brought the map with them. Miss, there's a Phoenix Cry Mountain not far from here. Let's go there and play. Feng De suggested after looking at the map. Phoenix Cry Mountain? It's very far from here. It's better not to go there, Yuan Ho said in a daze. It would take at least a day to get to Phoenix Cry Mountain from here. Did these people really want to go there? All right, let's go to Phoenix Cry Mountain, Lung Ruoxue said decisively. Miss Ning, that place is really not nearby, Yuan Ho reminded her without much confidence. It doesn't matter. There's nothing to do now anyway, Lung Ruoxue said disapprovingly. She knew that there were still about 2 months before the annual competition of the Artificer Association, so she was not in a hurry to rush over. Yuan Ho was a little dumbfounded. What should he do since Miss Ning wanted to go to Phoenix Cry Mountain? If young Master Yuan doesn't want to go, don't force yourself. Lung Ruoxue chuckled. She almost laughed out loud when she saw the ape's conflicted expression. I'll go. However, I heard that many people were robbed in the Phoenix Cry Mountain, so we have to bring more people. The ape thought for a moment and suggested. Even though he had never been to the Phoenix Cry Mountain before, he heard from his father that it was not very peaceful there. Therefore, for the sake of his life, he naturally would not go to any dangerous places. However, now that Miss Ning wanted to go, if he did not dare to go, wouldn't he be looked down upon by Miss Ning? Please keep reading on MYB 0X and 0VL, C0M, there's no need to bring anyone. We're enough, Feng De said confidently. Yes, young Master Yuan. Do you want to return to the First Alliance and report to Alliance Master Yuan first? Lung Ruoxue reminded. No need. I'm not a child anymore. Yuan Ho hurriedly said. If he really went back and told his father would definitely send many people to protect him. At that time, he would be looked down upon by Miss Ning. It's better to tell him. Otherwise, if you don't go back for a few days, Alliance Master Yuan might think that we kidnapped you. The freak smiled evilly. There's really no need, Miss Ning. Since you want to go to Phoenix Cry Mountain, let's go quickly. Yuan Ho urged. Then let's go. Lung Ruoxue took out the little peacock, and everyone sat on it. However, when the ape wanted to sit on it, there was no place for him. Young Master Yuan, I'm really sorry. It seems that my flying beast is too small, Lung Ruoxue said apologetically. However, she didn't look sorry at all. Actually, she deliberately made the little peacock the size of one of their own. Hee. It doesn't matter. I have my own. Yuan Ho summoned his flying beast. His flying beast was a black eagle. It was huge and the feathers on its body were as sharp as steel blades. Moreover, as the saying went, there was always a master. As soon as the black eagle was summoned from the beast's space, its black eyes looked around. Chapter 960. The little peacock being teased for. Its eyes lit up when it saw the beautiful and dazzling little peacock. Beauty, let Big Brother here hug you. It teased. As soon as it said this, the little peacock's face darkened and the feathers on its body stood up in anger. Lung Ruoxue and the others were speechless. They thought to themselves, can't this eagle even differentiate between male and female? Or will it not even let a male go? That was because they were of the same gender. Fuck, whose big brother are you? The little peacock roared angrily. It hated being treated as a female the most. Very good, this dead eagle happened to touch its bottom line, so it would definitely not let it off. Even though this eagle was as strong as it had many helpers. If it really could not defeat the eagle, it would let its master release the other beasts to help it. Of course it's yours, Beauty. Brother likes you. The black eagle continued to show its love to the little peacock. In its opinion, it was so handsome and mighty that this incomparably beautiful peacock had no reason not to like it. Master, I can't take it anymore. The little peacock roared. Hee, calm down. Let's go. Lung Ruoxue comforted in amusement. All right, dead bird, just you wait. The little peacock said fiercely. It had already decided that it would deal with that dead bird when they reached Phoenix Cry Mountain. With that, the little peacock spread its wings. In the blink of an eye, there was only a small black dot in the sky. Beauty, it'll be waiting for you forever, the black eagle replied loudly with an affectionate expression. Then it urged its master. Master, let's go. I say, Black Egg, can you not embarrass me like this? Yuan roared impatiently. If he had known this would happen, he would never have let this black and ugly thing out. Now it was actually teasing Miss Ning's beast. This time Miss Ning would definitely blame him. Please keep reading NMYB Zero's novel. Actually, he was thinking too much because Lung Ruoxue did not take him seriously at all. Moreover, her beast was not so easy to bully. It would take revenge on its own without her needing to do anything. Master, a fair lady is a good match for a gentleman. You like the master of that beauty too, don't you? Said the big eagle named Black Egg disapprovingly. How can that be the same? The ape was a little angry. It actually couldn't communicate with this dead bird. What a headache. The same. Master, the beauty is already out of sight. If you don't come up, I won't be able to catch up with her. The black egg reminded him. Don't talk nonsense. Let's go. The ape hurriedly sat on Black Egg's back. Master, sit tight. Black Egg reminded him. Then it spread its huge wings and flew straight into the clouds. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Black Egg accelerated and flew. Before long, it caught up with the little peacock and flew alongside it. Beauty, you must be tired after sitting with so many people on your back. Why don't you let me share your burden? Black Egg said fawningly. Get lost. The little peacock roared, unable to vent its anger. Beauty told me to get lost, so I'll get lost. With that, Black Egg really pulled away from the little peacock and away from it. However, a moment later, it flew back and said with slight grievance, Beauty, I finished rolling. However, I can't bear to leave you, so I came back. The little peacock's beautiful eyes spewed fire. It would not hesitate if this flame could roast this dead bird. However, it was so angry that it could not speak. Sensing that the little peacock's body was swaying a little, Lung Ruoxue and the others understood that the little peacock couldn't stay calm anymore. Alas! This black eagle was really a top-grade creature. In comparison, its master was nothing. Lung Ruoxue patted the little peacock's back helplessly. Only then did the little peacock resist the urge to pounce on the black eagle and beat it up. It decided to ignore any words from the dead bird. Otherwise, it would probably want to deal with the bird before it reached Phoenix Cry Mountain. What's wrong, Beauty? Black Egg asked expectantly. Unfortunately, the enraged peacock didn't bother to respond. Beauty, why are you ignoring me? Beauty, I'm sad. Beauty, say something to me. Please keep reading on MYB0X and 0VL. C0M along the way, the black eagle muttered to itself plaintively, making Lung Ruoxue and the others speechless. Chapter 961. Yuan, you think too much. 1. As evening approached, Lung Ruoxue and the others finally arrived at the foot of Phoenix Cry Mountain. Along the way, they had been enduring the demonic voice of the black eagle. and were already a little impatient. Therefore, as soon as the little peacock arrived at Phoenix Cry Mountain, they impatiently dragged the black eagle to a remote and hidden corner, and chose to ignore it. Fonda, let's camp here today. We'll enter the mountain tomorrow. Lung Ruoxua looked at the empty terrain at the foot of the mountain, and instructed. All right, Fonda replied. Then he led his subordinates to set up the tent. Young Master Yuan, did you bring a tent? Lung Ruoxua looked at the motionless ape, and asked with a light smile. No, why do we need to bring that? The ape asked foolishly. Of course it's for sleeping. Don't tell me you plan to sleep in the wilderness? Lung Ruoxua knew that this rich second-generation heir would definitely not bring these camping things, so she deliberately asked. I didn't bring anything, the ape said with a sad face. He rarely left the First Alliance, so he had no use for these things at all. Moreover, no matter where he went, his subordinates had already arranged everything for him. There was no need for him to do anything. Then what should we do? Lung Ruoxua pretended to be speechless and sighed softly. I'll keep watch at night, the ape said after thinking for a while. He knew that these subordinates of Miss Ning did not like him, so he could not expect any of them to be kind enough to give up their tent for him to stay in. He knew his limits. Please keep reading Zero in MYB Zero's novel. Come, how can I do that? You're the son of the former Alliance Master, Lung Ruoxua said in embarrassment. It's all right. It's my honor to keep watch for Miss Ning. All of you can go to sleep tonight. Black Egg and I will keep watch, Yuan Ho said fawningly. All right. Then I'll accept it. Lung Ruoxua pretended to decline, and no longer refused. Beauty. Come. Suddenly, the black eagle's painful and happy voice entered Lung Ruoxua and the others' ears. Everyone's foreheads were filled with black lines, and their stomachs were all heaving in unison. What was going on? Even though they were all very curious, no one went over to take a look. It was mainly because they were afraid that they would see something they shouldn't see. Ow. Ow. This was followed by several more suppressed howls. The black eagle seemed to be enduring something. Hearing this voice, Lung Ruoxua and the others were even more puzzled, and their curiosity was completely aroused. Young Master Yuan, your beast is screaming so miserably. Aren't you going to take a look? Fonda asked with a strange expression. There's no need, the ape said fearfully. Hearing this scream, he didn't dare to go over. The ape's words were immediately met with disdain from Fonda and the others. Their faces and eyes clearly said, what kind of master is this? The beast is enduring inhuman abuse, but the master is not responsible at all. Whoever becomes his beast is really unlucky for 8 lifetimes. Howl. The howling not far away lasted for more than half an hour, and Lung Ruoxua and the others' curiosity lasted for half an hour. As the wails became weaker and weaker, Lung Ruoxua and the others couldn't help but let their imagination run wild. Could it be that a beast's life had appeared? Even though the little peacock usually looked extremely obedient, it still wanted the beast's life when it was ruthless. It was really too terrifying. Just as everyone was letting their imagination run wild, the little peacock walked out from the corner, satisfied and refreshed. Master! The little peacock ran to Lung Ruoxua's side and rubbed against her fawningly. Are you satisfied? Lung Ruoxua stroked the soft feathers on the little peacock's head and smiled helplessly. It's all right. It's mainly because that dead bird is quite cooperative. Don't worry, Master. It's still alive. The little peacock said with a wicked smile. Beauty, I will live well for you. At this moment, the black eagle's weak voice sounded from the corner. Please keep reading on MYB0XN0VL. C0M this time. When the little peacock heard the black eagle call it a beauty, it miraculously didn't get angry. When everyone saw this scene, they felt that it was unbelievable. Well, could it be that the two birds had reached some kind of agreement that they didn't know about? However, when they saw the black eagle walking out of the corner shyly, they were relieved. At the same time, they couldn't help but laugh wildly. Haha. Everyone laughed until they cried when they saw the black eagle's current appearance. At the same time, they sighed in their hearts. This little peacock was really ruthless. It actually plucked all the feathers off the black eagle's body. Sigh. No wonder it took so long. At this moment, the black eagle's entire body was bare, and not a single hair could be found. It could be seen how neat the little peacock's technique was. Black egg, how did you become like this? The ape was shocked when it saw its beast's bald appearance. At the same time, it couldn't help but wonder if Black Egg could still fly in this state. The answer was naturally no. The beauty said that I was too dark and it didn't like it, so it helped me to amk over, the Black Egg said shyly. Its skin was slightly red. You. The ape was about to be angered to death by this stupid bird. Even though he wanted to beat it up, it did not dare to be too violent in front of Miss Ning, lest Miss Ning despised him. The beauty said that I look much better now, the Black Eagle said as if he was in love. As if. Can you still fly now? The Yuan Ho growled in disappointment. He didn't dare to roar too loudly, afraid that his beloved Miss Ning would hear him. Ehe. Of course not now, but after some time, my feathers will grow back and I will be able to fly again, the Black Egg said disapprovingly. As long as it could please a beauty, what was a body of feathers? Yuan Ho was so angry that its entire body was trembling and it could not speak. Calm down. Since things have come to this, please accept my condolences. Fonda walked forward and comforted him. Then the others followed suit and patted the ape's shoulder to comfort it. Chapter 962. Yuan Ho, you think too much too. Thank you for your concern. I'm fine, Yuan Ho said touched. Boo. He had finally been accepted by them, he thought happily. But if the others knew what he was thinking, they would tell him that he was overthinking it. Let's go hunting with us. Fonda received the freak's gaze and hugged Yuan Ho's shoulder, forcefully dragging the reluctant Yuan Ho away. Hunting? I didn't say I was going hunting with you. Yuan Ho's voice entered Lung Ruoxia's ears. Lung Ruoxia chuckled and looked at the freak coquettishly. Her beautiful eyes clearly said, "You're so bad. Little Peacock, take this bald eagle somewhere else for a while. I have something to say to your master." The freak looked at the black eagle, who was sizing them up with wide eyes, and instructed softly. "Yes," the little peacock replied. Then he pulled the black eagle's wings and left. "Schwer, it's great that all the light bulbs have left." The freak pulled Lung Ruoxia into his arms and said proudly, "You're really..." Lung Ruoxia smiled helplessly. "I want to be alone with Schwer." The freak chuckled. "Yes, I know." Lung Ruoxia nodded and hugged the freak's waist. "Please keep reading Zero in MYB Zero's novel." Calm just like that, the two of them kept their arms around each other. There were no additional words, but they felt warm and welcoming. The intimate atmosphere between them was one that no one could ever get into. It wasn't until they heard footsteps that they reluctantly released each other. "We're back, miss," Fonda deliberately announced loudly. "Yes." Lung Ruoxia nodded as she looked at Fonda and the others who appeared in front of them. "Looks like your gains are not bad." Lung Ruoxia couldn't help but sigh when she saw the rabbit in their hands. "That's right. Hee. There are many low-level spirit beasts in this mountain. There's a nest of them." Fonda looked at the fat rabbit in his hand and said happily, What happened to young Master Yuan?" Lung Ruoxia suddenly glanced at Yuan Ho, who was hiding in the middle of the crowd in a sorry state. His clothes were actually torn, and his face was bruised. This couldn't help but surprise her. Well, Fonda and the others shouldn't have beaten him up again, right? He was beaten up by a rabbit. Fonda suppressed his laughter. To be honest, he had never seen such a stupid person in his life. Not only could he not even catch a rabbit, but he was also played by those stupid rabbits. Those rabbits were too cunning. I didn't catch any of them," Yuan Ho said in embarrassment. Ooh. He didn't want to hunt at first, but then he heard from Miss Ning's subordinates that their misliked rabbit meat the most, so he wanted to show off in front of Miss Ning, who knew that he would end up embarrassing himself. "It's okay, just catch him a few more times." Lung Ruoxia smiled and comforted him, but she couldn't help but feel anxious in her heart. It was normal not to catch such a rich second-generation heir. If he caught the rabbit, how stupid would the rabbit be? Young Master Ape originally. If you didn't catch any rabbits, you shouldn't have any food to eat at night. However, our miss is kind-hearted and naturally won't watch you starve. So, go find a small river and clean up all these rabbits. If there's anything unclean, don't even think about eating at night. Fonda instructed with a naughty smile. I don't know how to catch rabbits, Yuan Ho said fearfully. After flying for nearly a day, he was already hungry. If he was not allowed to eat at night, he would starve to death. Lin Yuan, give him a sample. Fonda turned to look at Lin Yuan. All right. Lin Yuan took out a dagger as thin as a cicada's wing from his ring. Then he picked up a dead rabbit and skillfully skinned it, and removed its internal organs. In less than a minute, a huge rabbit weighing more than 10 kilograms was cleaned up by him. Here, follow this standard. Lin Yuan stuffed the packed rabbit into Yuan Hao's hand and reminded it. The ape was a little dumbfounded. Could he still be considered a human? Wasn't his speed a little too fast? Even though his subordinates would occasionally roast something for him to eat, their speed couldn't compare to this person's. What? Hurry up and clean up. Remember to wash it clean. Lin Yuan said impatiently. Please keep reading on MYB0X and 0VL, C0M. I don't know where there's a river, Yuan Ho whispered. Didn't we encounter a river on the way back? It's not very far from here. You can just wash there, Lin Yuan said speechlessly. But how can I take so many rabbits? Yuan Ho asked again. Fuck, you're asking too many questions. Why do you have so many questions? These rabbits didn't let you hold them with your hands. Is your storage ring a toy? Lin Yuan's patience was exhausted and he couldn't help but roar. Why are you so fierce? Yuan Ho muttered softly, his face filled with grievance. Go, Lin Yuan roared, glaring. Go now. Yuan Ho hurriedly put the rabbits in the hands of the others into the ring, and then went to clean up. But he was back before long. Don't tell me you're done packing so quickly? Lin Yuan said in disbelief. Damn, wasn't this strange? Can you lend me your dagger? Yuan Ho whispered, ducking his head in fear. Here, don't lose it. Lin Yuan kept telling himself to calm down. Then, after taking a few deep breaths, he handed the dagger that had been retracted from his ring to Yuan Ho. Yes. Yuan Ho nodded, then turned and left again. Fonda, can he get the rabbits? Lung Ruoxua asked with a headache as she watched Yuan Ho leave as if it was going to the execution ground. Miss, we don't know anything either. Humans have to go through more adversity. Therefore, we're giving him a chance now. He has to thank us, Fonda said disapprovingly. Looks like I won't be able to eat rabbit tonight. Lung Ruoxua didn't have any hope in the speed at which Yuan Ho cleaned up the rabbit meat. Chapter 963. Yuan Ho, you think too much. 3. Hee. Who said we can't eat it? We still have more. Fonda took out more than 10 fat rabbits from his ring, and said proudly. Sigh. You guys are getting worse. Lung Ruoxua sighed. If we count on eating the rabbits prepared that second-generation heir, we probably won't be able to eat them tomorrow morning. Therefore, we naturally have to be prepared beforehand. Fonda said disapprovingly. With that, Fonda and the others worked together. Not long after, the rabbit meat was placed on the fire to roast. However, Yuan Ho still hadn't returned when Lung Ruoxua and the others finished dinner, and the sky was getting darker. This made Lung Ruoxua curious. Fonda, get some people to find that Yuan Ho. We haven't left the First Alliance yet. If anything happens to him, won't the original Alliance Master eat us? Lung Ruoxua said helplessly. Alas! This Yuan Ho was really troublesome. Even though she really wanted to throw this ape here to feed the wolves, it was not the time to fall out with them. Otherwise, she would have left long ago. Okay. Fonda nodded and led his men into Phoenix Cry Mountain to look for the ape. A moment later, Fonda and the others carried the dying Yuan Ho back to the camp. What happened? Lung Ruoxua looked at Yuan Ho that was covered in blood and breathing weakly and asked in confusion. I don't know. He was like this when we went to the river, Fonda explained. Please keep reading 0 in MYB0's novel. Come, let him eat this. Lung Ruoxue took out a pill and handed it to Feng Desai. Yuan Ho couldn't die yet. Her show wasn't over yet. Okay. Feng De took the pill, pried open Yuan Ho's mouth, and threw the pill in. After a while, the unconscious Yuan Ho woke up, and his injuries were almost healed. Miss Ning. Ooh. I thought I wouldn't be able to see you again. The first thing Yuan Ho did when it opened its eyes was to cry bitterly to Lung Ruoxue to express its feelings. Stop. Young Master Yuan, don't just cry. Tell us what happened first. Lung Ruoxue asked curiously. I was cleaning up the rabbit meat by the river when a group of people came and snatched all our rabbits away. They even injured me. Yuan Ho explained softly. Oh, then why didn't you shout for help? Lung Ruoxue didn't understand. Wasn't this second-generation heir quite arrogant? Why had he been beaten up repeatedly recently? Sigh. What an unlucky child. There were too many enemies, and they were all very fierce. I was injured and fainted before I could say anything. Yuan Ho said in embarrassment. Boo. Now he knew that his father had not lied to him. This Phoenix Cry Mountain was really dangerous. He had only been here for a short time, but he had almost lost his life here. They took your dagger too, Yuan Ho added in a voice smaller than a mosquito, not daring to look at Lin Yuan. Who snatched it? Lin Yuan glared at him and questioned fiercely. That dagger was refined for them by their Mississippi. They each had one. One had to know that it was not easy for their miss to refine a weapon once. Therefore, that dagger was definitely difficult to obtain even with money. Moreover, they usually cherished it and could not bear to use it to kill people. Well, they often used it to cut meat. I don't know. Yuan Ho was frightened by Lin Yuan's fierce expression and stuttered. Then do you remember what those people looked like? Lung Ruoxue asked calmly. Yes, I'll recognize them even if they turn to dust, Yuan Ho said fiercely. This was the second time. In his entire life, he had only been beaten twice. He couldn't find them the first time round, so he would find them even if he had to search the entire Phoenix Cry Mountain. That's good. Let's go into the mountains tomorrow and look for them. Lung Ruoxue said calmly. Miss Ning, this is the second time you've saved me. Ooh. I've decided. I must. He was interrupted by the freak before he could finish his sentence. It's time for you to rest, my lady. The freak reminded her with a wicked grin. In front of the Yuan father and son, he was not Shui's fiancé, but a guard. Oh. Okay. Lung Ruoxue was very helpless. She knew that this jealous lover was most likely jealous again. Please keep reading on MYB0X and 0VL. C0M then Lung Ruoxue and the freak went into a tent. Why did he go in too? Yuan Ho was a little dumbfounded when it saw that the handsome man had actually followed Miss Ning into the tent. He was a little uneasy. He's my lattice personal guard. Of course he has the right to enter. Feng De said indifferently without even batting his eyelids. Even a personal guard doesn't have to be so personal. Yuan Ho said with jealousy. Boo. Why wasn't he the one who could protect Miss Ning by her side? Oh God. You're so unfair. Tisk, don't you also have a girl to warm your bed? With my lattice status. What's so strange about having such a personal guard? Feng De said disapprovingly. How did you know? Yuan Ho was a little shocked. He had warned the people around him not to tell anyone about this. Do you think your trivial matters are really some incredible secret? Feng De said speechlessly. In fact, he was really not interested in his gossip. However, the Black Eagle had revealed these things to please the little Peacock, and the little Peacock had told them. Does Miss Ning know? Yuan Ho asked nervously. Even we know about it. What do you think? Feng De asked instead of answering. It's over. It's over. What should we do? Yuan Ho was depressed. How would he live if Miss Ning had a bad impression of him because of this? Boo. Even though that was all in the past, what if Miss Ning minded? Don't think too much. Keep watch. Feng De patted the ape's shoulder and reminded him. Even though he couldn't read minds, he could guess what that ape was thinking about just by looking at its expression. In fact, he wanted to shout, Ape, you're thinking too much. Chapter 964. Yuan Ho, you think too much for. With that, Feng De went into his tent, and the others returned to their tents. In the blink of an eye, there was only a dazed man and a bald eagle sitting by the fire for warmth. Ah! It's too cold for a featherless eagle, Black Egg thought to itself. However, it had coaxed the beauty out of her anger at the very least. It considered itself much luckier than its master, who still had a long way to go. After letting its imagination run wild, Black Egg sat by the fire and stared at its master. It wasn't until Yuan Hao's soul returned to his body, and he felt a gaze on him that he reluctantly looked up. Black Egg, why are you staring at me? Master, there's a fire here. Aren't you cold? The Black Egg reminded him. Alas! Master was a little foolish. Oh, after being reminded by the Black Egg, Yuan Ho realized that it was indeed quite cold now. He got up, moved a few feet, and joined it by the fire. But as he sat down, he felt his stomach growl in protest again. He hadn't eaten in almost a day, and he was hungry. Black Egg, is there anything to eat? Yuan Ho helplessly asked his beast for food. No, master. You have rations in your storage ring, don't you? Black Egg reminded him. Please keep reading Zero in MYB Zero's novel. Oh really? Yuan Ho looked into the ring doubtfully. Sure enough, he found a few pieces of hard and dry rations inside. Yuan Ho accepted his fate and took them out to eat, his heart aching. Ooh, when had he ever been treated like this? The more he thought about it, the more aggrieved he felt. However, he still had to finish the hard and dry rations with tears in his eyes. By the second half of the night, it was getting colder. Yuan Ho and the bald Black Egg were shivering. Even being near the fire couldn't dispel the chill of the night, so the master and the beast had to snuggle up to each other for warmth. The next day, when Lung Ruoxua and the others came out of the tent, they saw the scene. Is it very cold at night? Lung Ruoxua asked in confusion. This wasn't the mountains, so it shouldn't be cold. Besides, didn't they have a fire beside them? Yes, it was very cold. Yuan Ho could feel himself freezing. You're really a rich second-generation heir. You can't even take this little hardship. If we were in the deep mountains, would we only be able to see two ice sculptures the next day? Feng De mocked with slight disdain. Yuan Ho pouted, but there was nothing he could say. Make breakfast. Lung Ruoxua said helplessly. Yes. A moment later, Feng De and the others quickly prepared breakfast. The ape was dumbfounded when it saw their agile movements. During breakfast, Yuan Ho wolfed down the food as if he had never seen food before. Feng De and the others were speechless. How hungry was this person? Sorry, I'm too hungry, Yuan Ho said in embarrassment when he saw that most of the food had entered his stomach. He felt that he had never eaten anything so delicious in his life. It's okay. We'll keep a tab for you. You have to pay for everything you eat, Feng De said with a smile. Yes, money is not a problem, Yuan Ho said quickly as long as he was not hungry. After breakfast, everyone packed up and walked towards Phoenix Cry Mountain. Please keep reading on MYB 0X and 0VL. C0M of course, there was no real phoenix in Phoenix Cry Mountain. It was mainly named after its shape. From afar, the entire Phoenix Cry Mountain looked like a phoenix that was chirping and spreading its wings. The scenery of Phoenix Cry Mountain was famous for being beautiful on the Divine Continent. In addition, the beasts in the mountain were not very strong. The number of level 9 transcendent divine beasts were so few that it was pathetic, and there were no traces of divine beasts. Therefore, many families and forces liked to bring their juniors here to train. Therefore, Lung Ruoxua and the others encountered several groups of people not long after entering the mountain. One of the teams happened to be the one they were looking for. Miss Ning, it was those people in blue who injured me, Yuan Ho whispered to Lung Ruoxua and the others. Oh. Lung Ruoxua heard Yuan Hao's words and looked at the team mainly dressed in blue. There were about 30 people in that team, and most of them were elementary gods. However, the few people leading the team had the strength of advanced gods. Their clothes were basically blue, and there were totems embroidered on their clothes. There was a small Yao character in the bottom left corner of their clothes. Among them was only a woman in a dazzling red dress, which made her stand out in the team. That woman was extremely beautiful. Her figure was enchanting and sexy. Even though her appearance might not be as good as Miss Ning, who she had met once, her temperament was much better than Miss Ning. Oh. Could it be that Yuan Ho was robbed because of his appearance? Looking at the beautiful woman not far away, Lung Ruoxue couldn't help but think to herself. Chapter 965. The daughter of the Yao family won. The other party clearly noticed the existence of Lung Ruoxue, and the others just as Lung Ruoxue was sizing them up. The two teams continued for a while until the woman in red suddenly walked in front of Lung Ruoxue and said with a charming smile, "Hello, little sister. My name is Yao Qianqian. Let's be friends." After saying that, she reached out to shake Lung Ruoxue's hand. Lung Ruoxue only chuckled, neither agreeing nor deliberately refusing. When Yao Qianqian saw that Lung Ruoxue was actually so calm, the anger in her heart could not help but surge. The jealousy in her beautiful eyes flashed. How could there be such a beautiful and outstanding woman in the world? She was really angry. Since she was young, she knew very well that she was definitely not as beautiful as Ning Renjie. Therefore, she had always paid a lot of attention to her temperament. And it turned out that she had succeeded because almost everyone would say both openly and secretly that Ning Renjie's temperament was not as good as hers. This was also the proudest thing she had ever done in her life. However, Lung Ruoxue's appearance completely shattered her beautiful dream. Today, she specially chose red dress because she wanted to attract attention and attract everyone's attention. However, even the simple and plain clothes of the woman in front of her completely covered her brilliance. How could she not be envious and jealous? Thinking of this, she couldn't help but increase the strength of her hand and release her pressure. Her goal was to make Lung Ruoxue embarrass herself, who asked the woman in front of her to be weaker than her. She couldn't help but think proudly, humph. No one could steal her limelight. She was the one who attracted the most attention, and attracted the most attention. The person who was the center of attention could only be her. Fengda and the others watched coldly from the sidelines. They only looked at Yao Qianqian as if they were watching a good show. Sigh, what a reckless woman. Of all people, why did she have to be jealous of their young miss? Even though the woman thought she had hidden her jealousy well with her enthusiasm, they had seen enough of such women that it was impossible to fool them. Please keep reading Zero and MYB0's novel. Kamsai. It seemed that their miss really didn't have much luck with women. Why did they always meet such jealous women wherever they went? They couldn't figure it out. Miss Yao, are you done holding my hand? Lung Ruoxue looked at Yao Qianqian indifferently with her beautiful eyes, and revealed a gorgeous smile. Everyone around them except for Fengda and Gang fell into a daze immediately and only came back to their senses after a long time. Little sister, just call me elder sister. Yao Qianqian was 100% enthusiastic. Her beautiful face was full of smiles, but her eyes burned with the flames of jealousy. I'm sorry. My grandpa said not to casually acknowledge random sisters, Lung Ruoxue said with a faint smile. Then she secretly flicked Yao Qianqian's hand away. As soon as Yao Qianqian's hand was repelled, 5 purplish-red fingerprints appeared on the back of Lung Ruoxue's fair hand. Those who had just regained their senses understood at a glance. At the same time, their impression of Yao Qianqian worsened. Miss Yao's grip is really strong. Lung Ruoxue sneered. Little sister, Yao Qianqian was about to explain, but the freak interrupted her. Miss, does it hurt? The freak held Schwer's hand with heartache. His handsome face was filled with worry. Moreover, in his heart, Yao Qianqian was already dead. Miss, is it very painful? Fengda and the others asked cooperatively. Sponsored content, Miss Yao? You're too much. Lung Ruhan said with a cold expression, even though he knew that Schwer had deliberately let Yao Qianqian leave evidence on her hands. One could imagine how much force Yao Qianqian had used looking at the 5 handprints that had already turned dark purple. Thinking of this, the anger in his heart burned. How could his precious little sister be bullied? Miss Yao, what are your intentions? You have to give us a satisfactory explanation. Otherwise, we will definitely not let you off. Lung Qingtian also said coldly, the flames in his eyes burning. That's right. What a vicious woman. Aya, if anyone marries you, their family will definitely be doomed, the disheveled old man said bluntly. Hearing the accusations of Lung Ruhan and the others, Yao Qianqian felt a little embarrassed. The Yao family members who came with her also felt a little embarrassed. After all, many people in the Yao family understood Yao Qianqian's nature. You. How dare you? I'm the young miss from the Yao family. When Yao Qianqian saw the other party's aggressive attitude, she used her identity as the daughter of the Yao family to scare them away. Unfortunately, Lung Ruhan and the others did not care at all. It did not matter if she was from the Yao family or the Ning family. No one could not bully their Shuer. Is your identity very impressive? You ugly freak. At this moment, Yuan Ho jumped 3 times and cursed. Well, everyone was fighting to perform, so he couldn't fall behind. What did you say? Didn't I beat you enough previously? I really didn't expect you to be so lively after being injured like that. You're really an unkillable cockroach. Yao Qianqian roared with disdain. I said that you're an ugly freak. You're ugly, but you don't allow others to say it. Go home and hide. Don't wander around outside. It won't be good if you scare people to death. With someone backing him up, the ape became more confident and mocked him bluntly. Please keep reading on MYB0X and 0VL, C0M. You're really courting death. I should have killed you last time. Yao Qianqian roared angrily. Kill me. If you have the ability, kill me now. If you can't kill me, take my surname. Yuan Ho provoked. You wait. I will do as you wish. Yao Qianqian was so angry that she went crazy. She even forgot to maintain her ladylike appearance. Her tigress appearance shocked everyone. Then come and kill me now. If you can't kill me, you can take my surname, Yuan Ho said proudly. Hee. With Miss Ning's subordinates around, he didn't believe that this woman could really kill him. Alright, I'll take your surname if I can't kill you, Yao Qianqian roared angrily. She wanted to attack but was stopped by a slightly dignified voice. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support. And don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.